Hello, everybody. Welcome to Neo Day 2023. I'm Marcel. You may know me. I'm your host for today, and we're just about getting started. In the background, you see the live stream, which I will be streaming and commenting. Um, but it's just about to start. The beginning will be quite easy going, I assume. Like always, we are, of course, caring more about the real products, right? From an investor perspective. So might take some time into this presentation until we see it revealed. So let's do a little bit of a check. I hope you can see and hear me clearly. Hope the connection will be fine today. Hope everything works out. Right, let me just get some windows aligned here. I want to quickly talk about a leak that happened yesterday. Actually, I have posted that one into the Patreon community. I'm not sure if you have seen it, but uh, actually quite a few things about the ET5, ET9 have been leaked, possibly. Um, so they were pretty good at holding back some of the insights around New Day. Not many product leaks. More mic gain. All right, let's do this. Let me see if I can do this for you guys. Mic gain. All right, I hope it's getting a little bit louder now with the mic. Let me know if that's gonna be better for you guys. Right, as you see in the background here, still the video playing. As I mentioned, take some time. Let's fill up this room as well. Let me maybe tweet again that I'm now live, and then I'll walk you a little bit through these leaks in a first start to this new day. Mhm. Oh yeah, Neo band. I guess not too many of you guys are too fond about Neo band. That's the feedback I got the other days. Put out another tweet. By the way, you can follow me at underscore mm85. That's my Twitter. Today minutes now. Okay, let's go. Okay, Neo band playing in the background. Not much happening yet. So let's talk a bit about this. Suppose, yeah, I think it's a legit leak, to be honest. I posted it in the Patreon community yesterday. I also put out a couple of tweets around this topic that I think we'll see a new 5 millimeter kind of full self-driving chip today. Um, so that's going to be very interesting. But this document here, by the way, is auto-translated. I can show you the original. It's in Chinese, which might be sort of a guide for neo marketers. That they it's an internal guide, a neo internal company guide that they know about what they need to say and how they need to talk about this new product that is most likely going to be unveiled today. And as you can see, these are a couple of pages, and so this is a quite substantial leak. And the kind of detail that's in there, um, just makes me believe that this is a legit, authentic leak here, and there are quite a couple of interesting details in here. Um, and so I've already mentioned like the 5 millimeter chip. So if you go into this document that I've posted on a Patreon community, which is um, auto translated by Google, um, there's in the end there's one table here where they kind of summarized the product advantages on industry development and why it's better than anybody else on the product dimensions and on the technology dimensions. And in here, let me find it. Where is it? Um, they speak of a 5 millimeter chip, a nanometer, 5 nanometer. Where do we have it here? The world's first 5 nanometer automotive standard technology high-end smart driving chip. And this is something which I mentioned before, I think, um, was actually hinted also by a Neo guy on Weibo. So let me pull this one up here. It's an interesting development lately. Quite a few people have joined Weibo. So that's the Chinese Twitter, and have been started to be more public and outspoken about the company. And that's really cool. And there's one guy. He seems to be the head of Neo Technology, and he put out a tweet the other day, which saying that he was very, very excited about a couple of products to be announced. And many thought that this might be just a 150 kilowatt hour battery, which we had the long range test, more than 1,000 kilometers. Um, but I think it was actually a little bit about more announcements, including the Abu Dhabi fundraise, but also about this possibly to be announced chip today, which I believe it seems legit here that this might be a 5 nanometer chip, which of course is a little bit of a spicy topic here, if that's the case, because of course the US has sanctioned China in a way that they want to prevent China having access to latest chip technology. Um, if you're watching my channel or watching or following me on Twitter, then you know my views that I think that this is kind of counterproductive. I don't think you can stop China, and developments like this, if that's the case, we will see today. If NIO were to bring out their own high-end smart driving chip, would be a testament to the fact that China can't be stopped. It would mean that NIO at some point might actually become independent from NVIDIA. So mic is not good. You guys have some problem. Noise canceling is killing the sound. Let me check. Maybe it's because I'm muting the live stream for a second in the background. Later on, if they really start the live stream, I will start using the other one. Yeah, the live stream video I will put on in a separate tab later on and give you the original feed sound. But for now, I think it doesn't make much sense. It's good now? Okay, perfect. Great. Yeah, sorry, I'm not in Berlin right now, so it's, a little bit difficult with the setup. But at least this time I'm not live streaming directly from the ET7 on the German Autobahn, what I've done before. And, sometimes it's a bit of a mess. But anyway, so coming back to this, by the way, welcome again if you just joined. I think our friends in the US are maybe just waking up by now, but this will be the Neo Day live stream, which I'll cover. I'll switch to the original YouTube live stream that you'll see in the background currently. But until then, let's talk a little bit about, what are we expecting from today? And I think it's mainly about the ET9, but in my point of view, if you ask me, it's not so much about the ET9. I mean, I mentioned on Twitter that I think, yes, this will be a showcase to, this kind of a blend between a Porsche Panamera and a Mercedes Maybach. Extreme luxury, extremely technologically advanced. So possibly a very interesting car. However, of course, in small volume, more kind of a you know a lead vehicle in the whole lineup, if you will. But for me, it's more about the underlying technology here, because I'm expecting that this will be trickling down into the Neo platform, into the general models. So if we get this announcement about a 5 nanometer automotive chip that will make Neo possibly independent from NVIDIA, then I think we'll see these chips also in other Neo cars, not only in the ET9. Possibly they will just start with the ET9 to make it kind of, a little bit more exclusive. Um, but that's the big news. If that will come out, that the chip, I think, will be one of the major um, outcomes of today. And it was kind of hinted by this guy on Weibo here. And it's good development to see that they are becoming more outspoken, more and more of these accounts, which you can follow on Weibo. And they sometimes start leaking some sort of these informations, or at least, talking and explaining a little bit more of what's the actual status quo of Neo and what's the future. Because in the past we only had events like today with Neo Day, where they announced actually these events, but not much presentations in between, such as, for example, the Neo Innovation Day, which we had a couple of months ago now. And I think they're actually listening to us. Our investor community has been quite critical and vocal, I would say, and has said, like, we don't really know what's going on. Neo is not communicating well. And I think they listened to this and thought, like, okay, what could be a strategy to actually go about and, catch up a little bit with, I have to say, Tesla. They're the benchmark. They're always doing that. So, again, this is the leak, a huge document. What I'm also looking forward to is, which kind of what got teased here, is this new architecture, which will be a 900-volt platform architecture. So, in a sense, that's an 800-volt. So there's a differentiation in the industry between 400-volt and 800-volt. It ranges a little bit with the voltages that are using. Exactly 900-volt is obviously geared towards the higher, even more performant end here. And it's about, of course, fast charging here. And NIO has some of the most industry-leading fast charging piles out there already today. But this will be a whole new architecture, which I think hopefully they will also go into announcing today, the NT 3.0 platform, which is also the platform that hopefully will see us becoming a multi-brand battery swapping platform, because they're also mentioning here something called quick swapping platform. So do we possibly see today a new battery swap station announced, maybe the generation 4, that has the ability to go multi-brand, since they're now signing all of these partnerships? That's at least what I have hinted in some of my earlier videos. So please excuse these slides, which are not very pretty, but just tried to make the differentiation here in my previous YouTube videos, that I think NIO might still build out their own swap stations. So the first gen till third gen, which they have now more than 2,300 stations, they are exclusive to NIO users. There's always the question whether or not they will open them up to the other partners. I don't think so. Maybe they're gonna do opening it up to one of their sub brands. But anyways, that's the leading battery swap platform and swapping infrastructure in China. Anyways, and what I'm hoping that they'll announce today, or possibly could hint, is a new swap station that could well be connected to the ET9 here, with this leak that it might have a quick swapping platform based on this 900-volt high voltage system. I think it will be an 800-volt compatible voltage system, so that these new partners that have sub-brands and their own brands will actually start developing some cars based on this platform. And so this swap station might have let's say six drive-through channels. So they will be situated at highways, will be massive, will be not only used by NIO but also of these other brands, in my point of view. And as I said, being able to switch between 400-volt and 800-volt battery packs, different architectures. I've hinted a couple of NIO patents that I've discovered before. So I'm not sure. We didn't have any leaks about this time. So I might be wrong about this, and that might be a major disappointment if they don't show it today. But that would certainly be a topic that would align with a launch of the ET9 with such new charging and swapping infrastructure, right? If they're gonna announce this, I'm also expecting that they are going to talk about the next battery swap station. Then a little bit of a highlight in here was Nomi GPT. I mean, it's a hot topic, right? Artificial intelligence. We know that NIO has this digital assist Nomi. It's pretty special because it's having this the hardware artifact within the car makes it more human, makes it more emotional. And we possibly will see an upgrade to that, becoming smarter, maybe accessing some sort of a large language model that they're training, and therefore being able to give smarter replies and give the car a higher intelligence. So that's something looking forward to. Yesterday I tweeted around this topic that I'm wondering when NIO will actually bring Nomi beyond the car, right? We're possibly just talking about the car here, but because of course it makes a lot of sense that this digital assist at some point in time is going beyond the car. And of course, NIO Phone is one way of achieving that. So possibly the Nomi GPT is also coming on NIO Phone and the digital assist. So that's a device that you carry around. But obviously, as we see that Chinese players are largely also following what Tesla is doing, will we at some point also get a robot that will be called Nomi that will work with the Nomi GPT? That's also something possibly not for today, right? I'm just going a little bit crazy here, right, with some of the interpretation. So again, welcome back for everybody who's just tuning in. I guess it's early in the US. Thanks so much for joining this NIO Day. Feel free to smash a like and share it. By the way, you can always ask questions here live, but you have to be a subscriber in order to do that. So please make sure to subscribe to the channel. And feel free to share the link on Twitter or in NIO investor groups so that we get more people in here. I'm expecting once the product reveal is going to start, and also when more of our friends in the US and Canada will be waking up, we'll actually get a couple more people even in here. Meanwhile, Europe is already here, so that's great to see. And possibly some people from China. By the way, China, I would have loved to go to the NIO Day myself this year. However, due to my situation, I just become a dad, I couldn't go. And of course, because there is Christmas around the corner, it makes it a bit more difficult. Oh, Li Bin is already going on stage. So this means I need to switch the chat here. To give you the background noise, the background sound. Just a second. Window, this one. So let me know, please, if you hear also the sound of
区
the
用户的共同努
battery.
力，今年的 NIO Day，我们相聚在13朝古都西安。一直以来，NIO Day 都是未来用户共创的节日。今年5位未来用户顾问团的成员全程参与了策划，46个城市的514位志愿者热情接待了全国车友，8个城市的220位用户。
All right, great. Seems like the sound is okay for you guys. So, as I said, the beginning will be a light introduction, couple of user relevant stuff, maybe from an investor perspective, not entirely relevant. As I mentioned before, Neoband is not a highlight for you guys usually, but it's part of the show, right? They are filling this stadium, as you can see, huge crowd. I've posted also on Twitter a picture of the parking garage is full with Neo cars only. It's crazy that Neo as a new brand can kick off such type of an event. So this is for Neo owners, and I would have loved to go there this time in China as well, but due to what I just mentioned, with the family and Christmas, it's not possible this year. Maybe next year, who knows? But this way, I can also cover it here live on the channel, which is great. By the way, again, this is a live stream right now. You can post your questions. If you're watching this one later, or if you want to watch it later, this will be recorded. It's available as a playback later on. So no worries about this. I know different time zones that will be joining today, but now we'll cover it live here, and I'm trying to add my commentary around where I think it's relevant. In the introduction, in the beginning, I've been talking a little bit about some supposed leaks that we've seen that I thought are very plausible. I'm usually not very commenting too much about leaks and rumors, but they seem to be very substantial. So I think we kind of have a good idea what's going to be presented with the ET9. But as I mentioned before, I'm also hoping for a little bit more. With the battery swap system, the NT 3.0 platform. I'm not sure if they're gonna talk about the sub brands today. I'm not sure if we're gonna get a one more thing, like for example, the Abu Dhabi deal. I'm a bit critical of that, the way they diluted shareholders and the way they raised the money so far at these low share prices. I think there might be more to it. So I wouldn't be surprised if at some point we get some major announcement also about the Abu Dhabi deal. Some sort of maybe a huge buy of cars by Abu Dhabi, or some huge strategic announcement. There's a rumor that Abu Dhabi might build a European factory or a Mexican factory that can be used by NIO, which kind of would make sense as such a large stakeholder of NIO, but all of that is not known yet, right? And I kind of don't expect that to happen today, to be honest. I think that's not the right moment, but at some point, hopefully. So yeah, I'm hoping that we get a little bit of a surprise, to be honest. But not exactly counting on it. And if you ask me, because some people have wrote some messages, and especially also in the Patreon community, which, by the way, is a way of supporting us. If you want, you can become a patron, and that way you get some extra content from time to time, as well as the ability to chat with me in the group chat, and 300 more investors, and a daily feed of news that I find worthy coverage for coverage. And in there, people also asked me if I think that Neo Day is already kind of in the stock price currently. And if you remember, like the last couple of Neo Days haven't been great for the stock, really. Usually the stock used to tank quite a bit after Neo Day. It's has it been more hype before? Maybe you have a better idea about that. I would say maybe there has been a little bit more excitement about the previous Neo Days than this time. But, my
最佳
personal
互联网
opinion,
公司
and
的
this is
高
not
管，
financial advice,
繁
and this
忙的
is
工
not,
作之余，他把
um,
自己的时间几乎都投
it's
入在
just my
这个事
personal
业上。
opinion, but
近几
I
年，
think the
他参
current
加了
share
大
price
大小
really
小
doesn't have
上百场
any,
公益活动，
goodwill
带
that
领
would
偏远乡村的
discount
孩子们
any
去看
positive
一看
outcomes of
世
NIO
界
Day.
上优秀的
So
公
I
司，
don't think
带他们去看一些从来
investors
没有
have
看过
run
的
up the
风景，
stock
想一些
in
从来
anticipation of
没
this
敢
NIO
想的
Day,
事情，为他们的心里
which
种上一颗
doesn't
向上的种
explain
子。
what will happen after this NIO
那
Day,
说这
right?
句呢，也是我们未来用户公司的理事
It
长，
could still
他
be
说，
that it's going
在
to
帮
tank like
助
in the
别人的
previous
过程中，
NEO days.
也感受到
People
了
are
自
being
己的价值。
disappointed by it or whatever, or some of the
以
short
上
sellers
几
playing
位
games.
未来用
Could
户，
well be
他们的人
possible,
生轨
but
迹各自不同，
I would also say,
但
like, if
他们
there's
都拥有
something
共同的
substantial
精神
announced
底
in
色，
kind of a highlight that is
有
kind
进
of
取心，有
um,
责任感。
you know, helping
他
to
们的
lift
故
the
事
sentiment
也
a little
是
bit, then I could
很多
actually
未来
imagine
用户
that
的
this
缩影。
NEO Day could be
在这个
kind of a
时代，
catalyst for this
他
stock.
们就是
Otherwise,
社
I
会
would
的
say it's
中
kind of a
坚力量。
neutral event for today. As I mentioned, I don't think much of anticipation. We didn't have many leaks other than what I've just
未来的用户们
discussed
一直在
currently in
尽
the
自己
first
社
couple
会
of
责任，
minutes, if you've joined
未
that
来
one
公司
already.
呢也一直在
Um,
行动。
and
就在昨
those
天
leaks basically
林
just
胖
came
的
out
项目落
yesterday,
地，
right?
山东
Other
青
than
岛
I've
国家公园
highlighted a couple of days
自
before that
此
I think this new
全
chip is
球已
coming.
经有17处
So
Geopolitics 的项目。
everything that's public
接
knowledge
下来
should
我们
usually
将
be
继续与世界自然基金会、 联
priced
合国
in,
开发
right?
计划署等机构合作，继续助力全球可持续发展。
Okay, in the background we still have
为了
Li
持续
Bin
践行社会
talking.
责任，
He
呼吁
is
更多人关注气候变
still
化。
talking
今
some
天，我们正式宣布，
more
未来与未来用户信托
more broad
携手
issues
中
like the
华
NEO
慈
user
善总会，
trust here. I'm
将
going
投入
to
5000万元，
comment
共
more
同发
or
起
crank
应
up
对
the
气候
sound
变
a
化
little
公
bit
益
if
及
they're
公益
going
行
to
动，
actually announce some
用
products
于
and
预
talk a
防
bit
和救
more
助应
about
对
more
全
investor
球气候变
relevant
化
stuff.
而
Okay,
引发
until
的
then,
灾害
maybe
与
take a couple of
病
your
毒。
questions. David is asking here, Marcel, I'm very surprised that you are critical of the Abu Dhabi deal. I see it's a huge win and a very big vote of confidence.
未来社区的朋
Um,
友们
well, in a way, it's good. Of
努
course,
力
they
工
have
作，
secured lots
关
of
爱他
funding,
人，
right?
信
And
息
yeah,
社
it's
会，
a win if you
对
can
生活充满
win
热爱。
over such a big
今年
investment,
呢，
such a big
未来社区累计
um,
举办了超过
money source, that's for
61000场
sure.
用户活动，
However,
每一次
just
相聚
speaking about
都是一
if
段
I'm a
愉悦的
company
旅
owner,
程，
then
都
I
是
don't
一
want
段
to
愉快的
dilute
回忆。
at such low
截
levels
至
of the
今天
share
中午，
price. I want to achieve a high
未
valuation,
来
and
用
there
户
was
累
the
计的
opportunity
行
to
驶
do
里
that,
程
like
呢，
in
已经超过
2021,
了
even in 2022. At some times,
153亿
NIO
公
was
里。
trading, at 30 USD and stuff. And in my point of view, it was a mistake, a
每一
timing
段里程
mistake.
背
They
后都有未来能
wrongly
源，可
anticipated that
充
they
可
might
换
break
可升级
even
的国际体在支持。
earlier. We know
首
their
先说一下充
expectations
电，
for
那未
2023
来
have
提供
been
行业
much
最
higher.
多的加
The
充站产品，
publicly
满
announced
足不同用户
sales
的加
targets
充
have been
要求。
much, much higher. So,
公共充电网
by
的
the
方
way,
面呢，
even Jin Li
未
Hong
来已
and
经在
Li
全
Bin,
国
they
布局
spoke in some of the events
20945
that
个4.5根充电桩，
that they
是
kind of
中国布
had
局充
some
电桩
false
最多
judgment
的
about the
汽车
overall
品
macro
牌。
situation,
重要
and
资讯说3
2023
遍。
has been quite challenging. But as you know, I'm a
那
bull. I'm positive
覆
about
盖
NIO. I'm invested in the
307个
company.
城市，
In contrast
东
to
自
lots of other
胡远，
people talking
西
about
自
NIO, I'm
喀
actually
什，
owning quite a bit
北自
of NIO
漠
stock,
河，
right? So
南自三沙，
it's in my interest
也
to
是充
have
电
this
桩
company
覆盖
succeed.
地域
However,
最广的汽车品牌。
that was in my point of view clear mismanagement. They should have raised
我们在
earlier,
高
should
速
have
公路
raised
上
more,
部
or should
署
have
了
been a little bit more prudent with investment.
1263根超充桩， 是
I
在
mean,
高速上
I'm
布
also
局超
even
充桩
supporting,
最多的
like
汽车
building
品牌。
out the charging infrastructure, like you see here in the
它
background.
服务
I
好未来
think
用
that's
户
a
的同
huge
时呢，
moat. It's a huge
我们的
asset
桩从第一天
that
起
NIO is
就
not
对
only
外开
serving
放，
their own
近
users with charging
80%
and
的电
swapping
量
infrastructure,
服务
but
于其
also
他品牌。
a large part of the
建
other
桩呢
car brands.
不是一
Exactly.
件容
Here's
易
the
的事，
slide. So
但
Li
更
Bin
难
has
的是把桩
kind of
建在
prepared the
偏远的地
presentation
区。
here for me that I can
未来
access.
通
That's
过
great.
Geopolitics，
So no,
我们
that's
现在给
it's
它取了个名字叫
I'm
家
totally
电服务
supportive for
充电
that,
系统。
and
在那些
we
基
now
础
see the struggles, for example, for Li Auto, who's trying to get into the charging business now with their first fully
目前已
electric
经累计
vehicle,
贯
the
通了
Li Auto
71
Mega,
条
which will
加电
be
风景线，
great at
覆
fast
盖里
charging, at
程超
least in
过
theoretical
56,000 公里。
perspective. But we'll see whether or not they can catch up with NIO in this type of an
喀纳
infrastructure
斯
build
西
out.
双版纳
It's going to be a very, very
川藏
difficult
公
thing.
路
And
漠
so,
河北京 这些
no, I'm
大家
all in
非常
for
向往的目的地
let's
未来的
let's
路正在
invest
严
in
重不
R&D,
好的
let's
生
invest
产
in
力测试。
infrastructure build out,
油
let's
车能去
let's
的地方，
be faster
电
than the
车也可以
competition and
去。
spend some money on that. I'm also not critical of NIO houses. I'm not critical of
今年7
the
月，
initial invent of
我
battery
们贯
swapping.
通了
But
全长
you know, the CFO could have
3133 公里
managed
的
this just
丝
a little
绸
bit
之路
better.
家电供应
So
链。
I think if
目
they would
前
have
呢，
raised
沿
earlier,
途已经布局
or
了65座纯换电
be
站。
more considerate with their
从
finances,
西安出
then
发，
that
穿
would have
越
been a
河西
great
走
deal for
廊，
shareholders.
沿
Now
着
they've
天
done
山
it
的
in
北
a
路直
huge
达
way,
波尔果斯口
at
岸，
very low valuation,
横
and
走
that's why I'm
柏林
critical
古
of this
道，
Abu
探
Dhabi deal
寻
because
千年
I'm
文化。
not seeing the entire
这个
strategic
非
picture
常美
yet.
的画
And
传啊，是我们
usually
的
I'm
本土化。
somebody who's
像这
really
样的家电
forward-looking
路线，
and
明
seeing
年
all of these
我
strategic
们会
aspects. But
增
I have
加
to
到
say,
100条。
it remains a little bit unclear to me what are the additional benefits of the Abu Dhabi
除了
um,
广泛布局持续
fundraise
升
here,
级
other
电商
than
产
the
品也很重
actual
要。
cash injection, which
今
has
天
been
呢，
huge.
我正式发布
So
未来
we'll see.
640千瓦
As
全
I'm
液冷烧
yeah,
配重装，
Neo Power Charger 4.0. Oh no, I
最
thought it's
大
gonna be the first announcement with
输
the
出
swap
电流
station. No, but that's a big
765安， 最大
ramp
输
up
出
here
电压
from 500
1000
to
伏，峰值
640
充电功
kilowatt
率
peak power.
640千瓦。
So that's possibly also aligned with the leak that I mentioned, that
行
they
业
will have
最
a new
轻液
platform
冷
that
充
is
电线
going to be really
近
fast at
2.4
supercharging
公
as
斤，
well as
就是和
swapping.
一个笔
So
记
we
本
can
电脑一
expect
样，很
faster
方
swap
便
than
就能
ever
单手操作啊。
and faster charging than ever. And these
实
charging
时智
piles
能分配
seem to
站
be
内充电功
the
率，
ones they put in
充
place
电不
just
需
for
要胶
that.
装啊，根根都是超快充。 明年4月就会开始部署。 总结一下啊，未来在充电领域，不管是产品技术还是充电桩的安装布局运营，我们都是在行业领先，并且还
Yeah,
在
anyways,
持续
this
进
is
步。
to wrap the topic out about Abu
2
Dhabi, where I'm still a bit skeptical here. I think the
大家都知道
dilution
未
is
来换
really
电好啊，
large.
但不能因
You
为
know,
未来
if
换电
if
好，
they wouldn't have
就
done
为
that,
了
NIO would be
就忘
trading
了未
20
来
to
的充电
30%
也
higher than
一直
what's
是
share
行业
price
第一。
today. So clearly, they have some responsibility for that, in my
其实
point
这
of
句话
view.
刚才说说
But
满了，应该再
I'm
说一
not
遍。
ruling out that the benefits
那
of
接
that
下
deal
来
will
呢，我们
become
就
more
说换
clear
电。
in the
今年
future.
初呢，
And of
我
course,
们
one
发布
major
了
benefit
千赞
is
计
that
划，
NIO
要在
is very
今年新
unlikely to
增
go
1000座换
bankrupt
电站。
now with
我估
8
计发布
billion
的时
in
候，很
cash.
多朋友都肯定说斌哥是不是这个要跳票啊？但是昨天在陕西自然博物馆，我们和用户一起见证了千赞计划的达成。
Yeah, this is one of the major goals
一年
which
千
they've
赞不是
achieved in
不是，今天我们
2023.
有3
Some
4
people
座
are
啊。
joking
我们在中国已
the
经
goals
建
where
成了
NIO is spending money, they
2309 座
are
换电站。
achieving, and that's true. But on the other hand, you have to see that this is a huge achievement. It's
在城
completely
区呢，我们电
difficult
区房的
to
覆盖率达到了
operationally to build out
40.4%，也就意味着超80% 的
2,300
用
battery
户
swap
在住
stations
家
across the
或者
country.
住
In my
宅
point of
3
view,
公
it's
里范围
also
内呢，
a
至少
way
有
of
1个换电站。
securing real
那
estate.
图上啊，
So,
是
for
我们
example, a
澳门
latecomer now,
科学
as
馆站，
Li Auto will be, they
它
will
是
have
第
difficulties to find the
1999
right
座换电
spots
站，
to offer.
这个数字非
First
常
of
有
all,
纪念意义。
getting access
那
to
澳
places where they
门
can
也
actually
是
put
第一
such
个
high
电区房
power
覆盖率达到
charging
100%的地区。
into operation. It's not easy. I've done a video about the difficulties that some of the auto
在高
chargers that are
速
currently building are
已经
still
布
not
局了
functioning because they
745座换
can't
电
get
站，
the power
建成了
necessary at
7纵
those
6横
locations.
11大
NIO has
城
secured
市圈
all
的
of
高
these
速换电网
places
络，
and infrastructure
占地
already
面积
in a
是
first mover
150公顷，
advantage. They
对于
now own
基
that.
础
They
民
have
来
all of
说
the
还是非常
partnerships
方
with
便的。
Sinopec and
那
so
我
on,
想
where they
今
also
天有
have
很多
along
现场的朋友，
highways,
就是
along
一
gas
路换
stations,
电来到西安的，
swapping
你们在哪里？
infrastructure along with supercharging infrastructure.
这么多人都从开
And
车
you
过
know,
来，
they said we're going
看
to
来我
build
们的
1,000
高
swap
速换电
stations
站
this year.
做
We're
的
going to
是非
be
常有意
more
义。
than
我们
2,300
现
swap
在所
stations,
在
and
的
they have
陕
achieved
西
it. So
已
that's
经
great.
布局了
Uh,
83座
a
换
bit
电
in
站，其
contrast
中
to what
高
NIO
速
Power
公
has
路上就有
achieved in
42
Europe,
座。
to be honest. So
像陕西
I
这
still
样
don't
已
have a
经
battery
初
swap
步
station
完成全省高
operationally
速
in
换电
Berlin.
网络布局的
Berlin
省
basically
市，
is cut off from the
我们
rest
已
of the
经有
country.
12个。
If I go along to the
接下
south,
来呢，
like I've
我们
been
会以
driving 2
省
times
区
to
为
Italy
单
and
位，
covered it on the channel,
逐个
right?
覆盖，
Or
让
going
用
to my
户出远
hometown,
门没有
then again, I don't have battery swaps infrastructure already yet, and the reason is not NIO is doing a bad job, it's German
但布
bureaucracy.
局
But,
越
it's
发完
just
善，
going to
换
show
电的
how
体验也会
difficult that
提升。
is, and
换
it's
电
not a given
速
that
度提
NIO
高
can
了，
just,
一把脖
spend the
高
money
速
and
频宽
build
换
these
电，
stations.
换
No.
电不断电这样一些
Um,
功能进去
and
进
we've
推出，
seen, I think that's what
非
they are
常
now talking
轻松
about,
优雅的体
a
验。
couple of
3
interesting
分钟满电，
improvements. For example, that the
换
power
电
can still be turned on during the
毫无
swapping.
疑问是
The
体
swap
验
stations
最
have
好
actually,
的
even the
赋
older
能
ones
方
have
式，
been becoming
没有
faster,
之一。
the swap time itself. And what I think is the most remarkable upgrade, really, and what's getting
截
me
至今天
personally
中午
very,
呢，
very excited is
蔚来
about the
也已经为用户提
ability
供了
to
超过
automatically swap, and that
3400
is
万次换
including
电服务。
the ramp
目
onto
前
the or
全国
ramp
日均
off the
换电约
highway,
7万
approaching
次，
the swap
也
station,
就是
getting into
说
the swap
每
station,
1.2 秒
performing a
就
swap,
有一
getting
台
out
蔚
and
来
back on the
城市换
highway.
电站满
Everything
电出发。
is being done really really autonomously. And
可通
that's a huge
可换
advantage if you think
可
about
升级。
the
现在我说一下升级，
prospects
每一
of
位蔚来用户
autonomous
都可以
driving in
按
the
日、
future,
按月或者
because
按年
there's
灵活
no
进行
such
电池流。
infrastructure for
我们已
fast
经为用
charging,
户提
right?
供了
You
超过
would
16
still
万
need a
次电
human
池
to
升级服
operate
务。
it in order
这个
to
速度
replenish
是不是比大
power,
家
in
想
order
象的
to
多？
charge. But NIO has this advantage that the
换
swap
电站
stations are
建得
fully
越来越多，
automatized,
再
and
加上灵活升
the
级服务，
entire
用户电池包的
self-driving
选装力
approach
也发生了非常大的变化。
works flawlessly in this
75
big
度和
puzzle
100 度
piece.
电池
So
包的
this is,
选装比例
I
呢，
think,
在我
underappreciated also
们
by
不
investors
久之
and
前还是
by the
50
tech
比50，
community.
但在上个
Everybody
月，
is very
这一
excited
比例
always
就变
about
成了95比
the
5。
advancements, for example, of FSD
平时
data by
用标
Tesla.
准续航电池包，
But
改
yeah, if you're
进使
following
用
me
大
on
电池
Twitter, and
包，
by the way, you should
既
do
为
that.
用
It's
户节省了支出，
_mm85,
又
or
为
just
社会
find me
节约
via
了
my
资
name,
源，也
Marcel
更加
Münch.
环保。
I'm posting
上周
a
呢，
couple of
我
videos from time
是
to
已
time
经
here
给
showing the
大家
NOP
实测
plus
了
beta.
150度超长续航
Um,
电池包，那
that's
不久
the
以后就会开始
sort
行
of
动。
a FSD beta
关
program
键
of
是，
NIO, and it's now
哪
moving
怕
into
是
cities,
6年前
as I've
发布的
covered here in
创始
some
版 ES8，
videos.
也可以升
NIO
级
had the
到
NIO Innovation Day,
150度
which
电池包。
announced a strategy. Ren Shaoxing has talked a bit about what's NIO's
每个人
approach
都可以持
compared
续
to the
享受
industry,
电
and
池
that's
技
super
术进步带来
exciting.
的
And
红
the
利，
first videos
这
coming
就是
out are
可
really
升级
looking
的
very,
巨大
very,
利益。
very optimistic to me.
接下
So
来呢，我将
great
发布
capabilities, but we have to
第
say
4
also,
代蔚来换电
they
站。
promised NAD launch. We're not there yet. Oh, battery swap station 4.0. That's great.
外观
Let's
是不
crunk
是更漂亮了？
to meet the sound a little bit on.
外观升级成为更具科技感的精
23
研灰涂装，
batteries,
内部电池仓位增加到23个，
faster swap,
单次换电时间减少22%。智能化进一步升级，
but it's still
搭
a
载了4
NIO
颗
specific
车规级
battery,
的英伟达
battery swap
Orin X 芯
station.
片
So this is not
和
the
6颗超
multi-brand
广
one.
角激光雷达，战端算力
They
达到
use the NVIDIA
1016
Orin
P，
chips as
对
well,
儋州的环境
and
进行
compute
了
power
全域的监
and
控、监
lidars.
测，支持
Which,
战
by the
车
way, to
近
give
距智
you
能交互。
a very interesting
那4代站
bit
呢，
of
我
context
们还
here,
可以配备站顶的光
Shen
伏服务，
Fei, who is head of
每
NIO
站每
Power, he
年节约
announced
近
that
18000 度，
battery swap stations can
18000度
also
电
be
磁化，
used in the
是
future
真正成
by
为了一个光伏充换一体
car
站。
brands that don't have the NIO autonomous driving abilities. As I
好，
mentioned, like the battery
更
swapping
智
has
能、
become so
更强大、
autonomous
更环保、
that you
更
would
开
think,
放，
well, you
这
need
就
a
是
NIO
蔚来第
car
4
in
代
order
换
to
电
do
站，
that. But
明年4月开
as
始部
Lieben
署
is just explaining here,
现
these
在就说说
stations
大
are
家年底
equipped
最关
with
心的事。
the sort of the same
2024年，
abilities that are
我 们
in NIO
将在中
cars,
国
and
继续
this
新
will
增
be
1000
kind
个
of
换电站，
remote available to other brands.
累计建成超过3310座，
2024 built
继
another
续新增
1,000
2
battery
万
swap
根充电桩，
stations, and possibly, I guess,
累计
most of
建
them will
成
be
超
the
过41000根。
fourth generation. Okay.
未来的愿景
So I would
从来
say
都是
what
让
we've
家
presented
电
here so
加
far
油
is
的
kind of
行业，
a
我们会继续努
incremental
力，
innovation.
把这
So
个
it's
愿
kind
景
of,
一步一步变
a
成现
a
实。
little bit faster, a couple more batteries, but it's
接
not
下
a
来
game-changing
是
new
大
battery
家
swap
最
station
期
in a
待的，
sense.
也是
So it
今
will
天
be
最重要
a
的新车发布
progress
环节。
and an iterative upgrade.
过去几年呢，智
And
能电动
as I
汽车
mentioned,
已经
what's
成
more
为
exciting,
全
of
球科
course,
技
is
创
with the
新的
new
制高点。
partnerships and this
蔚来
multi-brand
围绕着智能电动汽车的核心技术，
compatibility,
进行了全站的
one
部署
aspect
和
is
坚决的斗争。
this compute power of these
今
swap
天呢，
stations will be
我们
able
就为
to
大家带来
connect
了
to other
未
brands'
来
cars
技
as
术
well
创
and
新的
enable them
最
to, for
新
example,
旗舰产品。
automatically park in the swap station and perform the test autonomously. Here we are, the ET9. They're wasting no time this year, going straight into the product announcements, no blah blah blah, just straight pitching of new products. I like it. What do you think about a car?
未来 ET9 为创新引领者打造的智能电动行政旗舰。
Definitely a huge car. Wow. That's a beast, really.
我们不说这个口号啊。
That's the new flagship.
2年多前，
And I guess
我
there will
们在
be
ET9 立项时
lots of
呢，
power inside
提出了
and
3个
lots of
设计目
innovation
标。
inside,
第一，
some of which I've just
要体
discussed
现
in the
创
beginning of
新
this
引
live
领者的
stream.
精神。第二，是充分利用技术突破带来的可能性。第三，推动未来设计基因持续迭代和进化。
So in this
经过2年
marketing
多
leak
的
that I've
精雕细琢，
spoke about
团队出
before,
色
they
地做到
also
了以上三
explain a
点。
little bit why
我
they are
们
doing
称
this, why they're
ET9 的
launching a
造型为
flagship.
飞
And
航
it's
车身。
mainly because they say that Chinese
作
brands
为创
are
新引领
missing
者的
something
行政
like
旗
this
舰，
currently.
它的
There's
造
no
型
one
是不
going
守旧的，
head on head with
不被
BBA,
传
so
统束
that's
缚的，
Bentley,
但也是
Bauma, and
从容
Audi in
得体的。
Chinese. So Mercedes-Benz,
作为
BMW,
智能
Audi,
电动时代的
which have
行政
these
旗舰，
high-ranked
它是有
vehicles
想象力的，
that usually are unmatched by
充分利用科技创
Chinese
新，实
Chinese
现
brands. And
前
so
所未有的
this
空
is in a
间
way
与
a
乘坐体验。
technological demonstration. It's a marketing
未来
exercise.
的
It's
设
a
计基
brand
因
building. It's a
持
brand
续进化，
positioning thing here. Of
不
course,
是突
it's
变。
not expecting
它在
large
体现
volumes. It's
纯
a
粹
couple
有
of a
温
handful
度、
of people will
精
be
致、
able to
有未
afford
来
this
感的同
car.
时，为
But
行
yeah,
政
as you
旗
see
舰的
from the
姿
words
态
here,
和
it's
优
about
雅带来了
sophistication.
更
It's
好的
about
阐释。
technology. It's about appearance,
ET9
elegance,
车身
design.
长度超过5.3 米，
So this will help to establish
拥有
this
同级
high
最大的
positioning of
2.16 毫
NIO.
米
And as
车
I
身
said
宽度
before, I'm expecting
和
some of the technology that they will now
1620毫
actually
米
talk
的车
about in
身
a
高
couple
度，
of seconds, I guess,
超大的体
in
量
this car to trickle down
造
into
就
the
了
entire
行
fleet
政
over
旗舰的
time.
气场。
But that's in the first place, it's something for people
3250
to
毫
look
米
up
的
to,
超
right?
长
That's
轴
why
距，
it's a flagship. That's why it's
充分
exclusive.
利用技术突破带来
And
的整车
yeah,
架
I
构的
mean,
优势，
no
结
need to
合
say,
飞
NIO
航
is
车身
great
设计， 创造了纵向、
at
横向
design
和垂向3个维
and
度上的行政旗舰
they're
最大
just
空
great
间。
at doing those type of cars, to be honest.
790
I'm a
毫
big
米
fan of
的
it.
轮胎外
I
径，
think especially from
搭配同级
a
最大的
German
23寸轮圈，
automotive perspective, it's
气
it's
场非
really
常强大。
hitting the nail on its head, to be honest.
200毫米离地间隙，
I don't
远
know. What do
超
you guys
同
think?
级行
I
政
think
旗舰，
we'll learn a couple more details
姿
now
态更加
about the
挺拔，
product.
视野更加开阔，带来安心从容的驾乘感受。不仅如此， ET9 拥有220毫米同级最大的
Again, to
全
our
站式
friends in America
可
and
以有效
Canada,
低
North
速化
America,
运行
South
模式
America, who are
带
just
来
waking
最
up
大的舒
possibly.
适体验。
Thanks for joining this Neo Day
可
live
以
stream.
1秒
If you are
快速
watching this
下调
later, this will
毫
also
米，
be recorded on a channel, so you can watch it again as
到
well.
达荧幕高度呢，
I'm adding a
可
little
以
bit of
为乘
my
客提供
commentary
无
here
尽
around
的
this. In
经
the
历
beginning, I've
体验。
spoken about my personal
解锁的时
expectations
候，
for Neo
它
Day
就能
and a
完成
couple of
高度
leaks
调节。
connected to that. I think there might be some major
纯
announcements
粹
today. I've
而
also talked
尽情
about
的
how
全
I
面设计，
expect
彰
investors
显
to go
ET9
about
行
this,
政
and
旗舰的
now
气场和
NIO
姿
is
态。
jumping straight into
大不的
um,
猩红日行灯
those
更
product
加精
announcements.
致，
So it
更加
didn't take a
细
lot
腻。
of time
如果你
until we
近看有
just
非常
get
多的细
straight
节。
to this ET9 announcement
宽
here.
大的飞行式智能
So
电
this
动
is
尾翼，
the
在降低重组
headlights
的
which
同时
it's
呢，
sharing
也
with the
能提升
EC7.
高速行驶的稳定性。Design for AD 瞭望塔式的布局再次进化，首次加入专
They're
为
still
人
keeping
与
to the
智能驾
watchtower
驶设计
design.
的
So
侧向
a couple of
广
people
角激光
thought
雷
they
达。
might, wide
侧向的
angle
感
side
测能力呢
lidars. Okay,
更
so
是
it's
提升了。
getting even more lidar sensors here.
行政
And
旗
some
舰
people
的
were
内部布局
thinking
呢，
that NIO may
我们
actually
认为
ditch the
它应该
watchtower
追求
design
定
and
位
actually
是
go more
车
towards
上
a
的每一位都
integrated
有专属的位置，
design. So that's becoming
但是
less
又
visible.
开放了一个空间。
To be honest, I
在感
think
受
in
到
Europe
中控的
it
力量
might
的
be
同
an
时，
issue with
也能
the
够非常
watchtower
方便
design.
的
Not
连接
everybody is into
分
that
享
sort
交
of
流。 为了
futuristic
实现这一
layout,
目
which
标，
makes it instantly visible
ET9
that
采用
this
了
car is able
原
to
生的
autonomously
视觉布
drive
局，
and having all of these sensors. Some
并且
people
进行了大量
feel a little
开
bit
创性设计。
uncomfortable around this. For example, when I drove with the ET5 or the ET7 to
ET9
Italy,
首创的行政
people
桥
are still conservative and
近
sometimes
2
say,
米长
"Oh,
的
I want to drive by
长度管
myself." But on
外
the other
加
hand,
前
it's
后排，
especially with the younger people, I
创
think it's
新的
catching
减
on.
轻了20个
So yeah, let me know what you think
在
about
实
this
现
type
空
of
间准确的同时呢，
design with the
也很
lidar
自然地
sensors
成为
and
全车乘
the
客交
visibility
流
of
和
those
互动的桥梁。
autonomous capabilities.
在行政桥里面，
I think it's still done in a very
我
nice
们为
way.
2排的乘客
So
精
Chris
心设计了
Thomason
一
and
张
their design team are doing a
360
great
度
job
无
in
级
my point
调
of
节的
view.
行政桌
This
案，
time we're seeing a little bit more innovation on the interior design, more the business type class that I was personally
这张桌
hoping to
案呢
get already in the ET7,
可以
right? I
无
think
限
the
度调节，
ET7 is a great car,
任
to
意
be
角
honest.
度随心调节。
I was using it on some of my business trips. I
我当
was
时坐
doing
上去是
meetings
真的是
in
爱
the
不
back
释
of the
手。
ET7. I've done a live
无
stream
论
actually here on
越
this
轴办
channel
公、
about NIO
会议
earnings in
对
the
谈、
ET7. It's a
演示
great
分
car
享，
as you have
各
lots
种
of
场景都
space
能
in the
革新
back,
运作。
but there's nowhere a
我
table
们
or
还在行政
anything,
桥里集
which would
成了
set it
电
apart. But
动
now
开合的
it
智能
seems
气
that
象，
this flagship model is getting
一键电
this
动
type
开
of a
启，
business
更提升
class,
的
first class
大空
suite
间，
with a
具有从
refrigerator
零下
for
2度
a
到
little bit
零
of
上
champagne,
15度的
uh,
超大的一
phone
个温度调
holder,
节范围。
iPad holder,
后
yeah, the mini
排
fridge,
飞行头等舱座椅，
and a way of being
拥有
able to
24
work
项
in the
自
back
研
of the
专利，
car.
45度最大靠背调节
All
能
right,
力，
first class seats
582毫米的
for
多
a little
面
bit of
看
a
景，
nap time in the back.
一键
To
鼠
be
标，
honest,
有
this is
11
not
项点动调节。
this is not
这些
necessarily
体验
setting NIO
都
apart
远
in
超
the
同
China
行。
EV space. China
一款
really
优
is
秀的
like
行政旗
crazy
舰
when it
应
comes
该有
to
全方位
interior
的integrated
design and
设计。
innovation with new cars.
ET9 有
Lots of
7
competitors are
扇电动
really
遮阳帘，
jumping ahead and trying to
可以一
differentiate
键
by
开
putting
启，
lots of
为乘客
functionalities
打
and
造
added
专
stuff
属
into
纯粹的
the
思想
inside of
影响
cars,
力。
but frankly also to the outside of cars. So, for
专
example,
为
if you
后
speak
排
about
商务场景
IM
开发的
Motors,
全景互联
they
显示
even
器，
put like 3 lidars
应用
as a
14.5 英
watchtower
寸
design on top.
OLED 高清显示，
Now NIO for the first
屏幕
time
的角
brings
度可以随
displays
座椅位置智能调节，
inside the car.
分体式
There
台
has
下
been lots of
都能
criticism
供
about
最佳
that
的调
NIO
节。
has not this type of entertainment
ET9
infrastructure
原创的
within the
行政
cars.
桥设计
That's
为
possibly
车
a
上的乘
way
客打
or
造了
reason
专
why
属
Li
和开
Auto
放的
is
空
selling
间。
so well.
我们把这样的
I
设计
sort of
呢
disagree with
再
that.
上一
What I
层楼
always
啊，
liked about NIO
在
is like the
车顶
simplicity and
设计了一
not
个
adding
纵
too
向
much
的
of stuff
天空
into the
岛。
cars.
天空岛
Frankly,
行政桥
I'm not sure, like if
天
you're a
地互联，
passenger, if you are actually really
将这
using
种专
a
锁开放的空间
passenger
感受
screen
变
during
得
the
更
rides.
加
I
立
know
体，
Li
更
Auto
加
as a
完
family
整。
car is doing well with the screen in the back for the kids and the entertainment, so that's
纵览
serving
天
a
地，
clear purpose. But
四方得
usually
地。
you also have your handheld device, right? And
现在我们有
well,
的是
now we see that's the Neo vision. with an impressive design, I must say.
创造了一
Lots
个
of screens, of course,
前
now,
所
but
未有的
seems to
移
be
动
done in
学
a
术空
clean,
间，
nice
一个
fashion.
高效的移动办公室，
Now
一
horizontal
个
also
专
for the
属
center
的商
screen.
务会客
We
厅。
had some criticism in the
这张
past
照
that
片
NIO is
呈现
not
的氛
having
围
a
感就
horizontal layout
非
for the
常强，
center screen in the front of the car.
很帅。
Seems are reacting to it and shy. So
谢谢。
Li Bin saying it's gonna be good looking. It's
那
pretty. Yeah, I have to agree. It's looking
ET9
great.
的外观
It's
与内
not
饰呢，
too
我
cluttered
就
in
简
my
单给
point of
大家
view.
介绍到这里。为了便于接下来的演
I
讲，
can imagine that
我
this
们
will
先
be
让 ET9
looking
在后
very,
面
very
休息一下。
good in person. Because usually NIO, what sets them apart is also the quality of the
再欣
material.
赏一下图
You
片。
know, you sometimes see those crazy
那
China
刚才这几
cars,
分钟啊，我跟大家
for
简
example,
要
by
简要
Huawei,
的
the
介绍了
iITO, and so
ET9 的
on.
造型
They
和
have
内饰的设计理
everything
念
that you
啊。
can dream
时
of
间关
and
系，就不细
imagine.
节就不开了，因为后
But
面要讲
I've
细
been
节。
in those cars. I've been in China and I've
那 ET9 的设
you
计，
know, experienced it for
它展
myself.
现了
And
我们
I have
原
to
创的
say,
标
like in
准。
person, those interiors
相对
are
于传统
sometimes
的
not
行政
looking
旗
that
舰，
great. And especially, I think,
ET9 的
after
设
some
计
time of use, they're
是
not
一个
looking that great anymore.
巨大的
And I
突
think
破。
that will be different with NIO.
但是更重要的是
Because generally they're using higher quality built
ET9
materials
将
and
树立行政旗
yeah, the
舰的这一个标
engineering,
杆。
the manufacturing part, I think still sets
行
apart
政旗
NIO from
舰
these kind of competitors. And
从
in the
来
end, you
都
get
是
what you pay
技术
for.
旗舰，
Right, you can get a cheap car which looks good in the beginning, but
奔驰 S 级、迈巴赫、七系、
I
威巴、
mean, it's
帕
also
拉
a
梅拉
question of durability
都
in
是
my
以
point of
创
view
新的技术奠定了旗舰定
and
位，
what is
引领
built
了他
to
们那个时
last.
代。今天，在智能电动时代，
I see your comments
没
are
人再先
largely
给出答案。
positive here. Looks awesome and futuristic. ETV9 definitely
谢谢
looks
大家的期
amazing.
待。
It's
从
great to
成立
see
之初
that
呢，
you
未来就围绕着技术
you
创
guys are
新
happy
坚
with
决
it.
持续的进行投入。在今年9月的 NIO in 未来创新科技日，
Yeah, now let's get
我们向
into
大
some
家
of
介绍了
the
12个领域的
exciting
潜在
parts
机
and the
遇。
specifics, like that this one is about a
ET9
full stack
就
integration
是
of NIO
未来
technology,
技术
I think
创新
covering
的
the
结
NIO
晶之作。
software ecosystem. So
ET9 的技术创新点非常
there
多，
might
我今天
possibly
给
now
大家
be
重点介绍4
about
个
to
领域。
announce the NIO chip,
首
the
先呢，
self-driving chip,
我来介绍
AD
ET9
chip.
搭
There
载
we
的
have
未
it.
来自研的自驾芯片，
High voltage
未来
architecture,
现有的
intelligent
ID 操作品
chassis,
牌
vehicle
是
safety.
全球自驾
Vehicle
效率
safety
最
has
高的，
become a very
使用了
huge
4个业
theme.
界先进。
Especially a couple of people are now realizing with
未来
some of the
自研的
cheaper
第一
cars
颗自驾芯片的
that
目
they
标
are
是
horrible
用
in
1
crashes.
颗
NIO
实
has
现4颗的
outstanding
性能。
safety of his cars. And now
现在
here we
呢，
have the AD
我就
chip,
正式
4
发布
times the
未来首
performance.
颗自驾芯
What,
片
4 times of the orange chip? Did I get
神
this
机
right?
NX
So it,
9031。
this one is it. Here is the chip. That's the NIO silicon. That's
神
amazing.
机9031
That's a
在业
a
界首
huge
次采用
breakthrough.
5
5
nanometer 的
nanometer automotive
拥有
grade.
超过
I've been
500
right
个
with
晶
the
片，
leak. Awesome.
业
There we
内
have it.
首次使用
A huge
3
blow
摄
to
核
the
心
US
架构，
administration. On top of that,
615
NIO has
K
got their
DMIX，
5
每秒运行超
nanometer
6万
chip
亿条件，
technology, which will
超
possibly
业
at
界
some
旗
point
舰的
then
2.5 倍，
make them
能并
independent
行计
from
算、感
the
测、计
US
算、微控
suppliers
以
like
及完
NVIDIA.
云底智能
We
超多
possibly
次
will
辅
see
助。
them switch over to their own silicon
自
in
研
that
图像
regard,
信号
which
处理
has
器
the
ISP， 处理
which
延
has a
迟
couple
小
of
于5毫秒，
benefits, right? I think they're now
相比
going through
行
the
业平
performance
均缩
here,
短
which
75%，
is
更快识别、
75%
更快
faster
下
than the
单。
industry, which are just
26 比
saying
特
here in the
处理尾算，
background.
提供了行
Of
业
course,
最
what
高的
this will
动态处
bring
理
with
范
it
围，
is that it's going to
批
be
量挤压的区
more
域有
cost
游戏空
effective
间，
if NIO does its own chip.
每秒
Because
65
they
亿像素的
basically don't
QD，
have to pay the
行业
margin
性能
that
最高。
NVIDIA is charging.
自研推主
And of
加速
course,
单元
they
NPU，
can
有创源
fine-tune the
复合一口
algorithms
自
with
然
the
处理范围，
hardware. So this is going
配
to be
合
more
专用
vertically
硬件的
integrated
调度
here,
单元、加速单
um,
元，能灵活操
possibly
作起
resulting in an
各类
even
黑暗
better
信号，
autonomous driving
性能不
performance.
和业界旗舰去做一个对比。
So again, if you're just tuning in
PUV
and
的
see a
算
couple
法，
of more people are tuning
神
in
机
now,
是它的
possibly about
4.3 倍，
our friends in America waking
，Transformer 类的
up.
算法
This is the
是
live
它的
stream
6.5
of
倍，
NIO Day, and I'm
LiDAR
putting
点
out my
云
commentary
处
here
理
on
类的
top.
算法是
And
它的4倍。
we just learned about
关键
the battery
这些都是和未
the
来
battery
的
swap
AI
station version 4,
紧密有合
the
的。
Neo ET9 and the heart of it, this new
神机9031
chip
可
that
以
NIO
实
has
现
self-developed
毫瓦
will
级
be
的功耗合作，
self-producing, I guess,
关键是
and
系统
is
独立
more
自主供
performant
电，
than what they
可
have
以
in the
根据
current
应用
cars.
场景
And
按需开启
again,
和关
they
闭
have
相应形
10x
态，
the compute
能
power
实
in a
现
current NIO
微秒
car
数
than,
的
for
动态换
example,
机，
if you compare it to a Tesla
远超
vehicle.
行业
Now,
报
there are
表。
some people who argue you don't need the
神
higher
机
compute power in the
9031
car. It's always
作为
also
一
about the
颗
cost,
自驾
right,
的专
and
用
the
芯片，
effectiveness. And
全
Tesla
年度
claims that they will be able to
ASMD
achieve full
1000
self-driving
多
in the
项
end
芯片级的功能安全设
with the
计，
current
实
hardware,
现了行业
um,
最高等级的
of
原生
hardware
安全设
4.
计。
But NIO
更重要的
is
是
going one more step
90131
here
实现
and
了
will
行业
be
首个双芯
better,
片
will have
毫
better
秒级
hardware
的
than even
备份能力，
the
在
NVIDIA
极端
chipset,
情
the
况下
Orin
可以
hardware, which
提
they
前
currently
切
have
换，
in the
保
cars.
障系统运行安全。
And
未来在
if you
智
watched the
能驾
NIO
驶领域，
Innovation Day or some of my
亦
videos,
不致力于
you
建立
possibly
全站
saw
自
the
研能
bits
力。
where Ren
神
Xiaoqing
机
was talking about
9031
the
自驾
fact
芯
that they
片
use some of the
将进
idle
一步
compute
加
power,
强
that
我
the
们在
compute power
智
that's
能驾驶
not
方面
currently
的领
used
先优
in the
势，
car while full
给未来的用户
while
带来
self-driving,
更好的自驾
um,
体验。
as a cloud
不仅仅
compute,
是自驾
swarm
芯片啊，
compute
我们
mechanism,
整
like in a
车
shadow
全域
mode,
操作系
in order
统
to gather
SkyOS
data for
也将在
the whole fleet.
ET9 上全面完整
SkyOS,
应用，
that's the NIO
有信
self-developed
有稳
vehicle operating system.
才能
Now it's
让
everything's
整
coming
次的
together, the
技术
hardware
制高
piece,
点，
the software
才
piece,
能在自主电
and
动
that's
汽车
being
的领域
demonstrated
赛阶
with
段
this flagship
走
model,
得
the
更远。
ET9. Exactly, good comment here. The chip makes the stock more
谢
bullish
谢。
than the car. I agree. This is huge
说完
news.
了神机
I
自驾
mean,
芯
the
片，
fact that NIO is
接
able
下
to
来
do
我要
that
介
and
绍
pull this off as a new brand, a
全
new
域
company, as a
900伏
Chinese
高压
brand,
架构
despite US sanctions, I mean, that's a huge blow to
，ET9
competitors
的
and
全车高压
I
架
think
构
the US
全面
in
升级的
general,
900
who's
伏，做到了
I should
3
say the
个
US
全球第一。
administration, who thinks they can
电驱
stop
电
Chinese
阻、电
innovation
控、
with
DC-DC
sanctions.
等
And I
系统
think
最高电压
it just
升
makes
到925
the
伏，
Chinese players
全球第
more
一。
independent and more successful in the end because they will
车
create
端
their
实
own
现
silicon
600千
like
瓦的
NIO
峰值储
just
电功率，
announcing today.
全球第一。
They would have been at the mercy
车
of
端风电
NVIDIA
充
for a
电
very
电
long
流高
time
达
if they were not
725安，
forced to
全
do
球
this
第一。
at some point in time. And now it's becoming a strategic advantage
未来
for
3电
companies
技
like
术
NIO, but
持续创新和
generally
持
the
领先。
whole China ecosystem
从
will
成立之初，
become
我们就一直
unreliant
坚持
from
自
Western
研自制
technology.
高性
And
能智能电控系
um,
统。
the way I,
ET9
I
搭载
used
的
to
最新一代未来900
see
伏
the
高性能
Chinese
智能电控系统，
entrepreneurs and the
应用
tech
了大量的自
ecosystem,
研
they
的智能
will
工具，
most likely
包括
quickly surpass
自研
some of the
1200 伏
specs that
碳
we'll
化硅
see
功率模
from
块，
Western brands.
低损耗、低热阻，超过30万次的功率循环能力，
So
超
NIO
长
is
耐性，
now
大幅提升了电
reaping
机
the
的性
fruits
能
of
和可
some
靠
of
度。
their NIO capital investment.
全
I
球
think
领
some
先的
of these
WLTP
developments
连
that
续
were
光照
now
的
being
功率，
presented here
不
with
需要进行
those
多换气和换
self-developed
电，
motors and
ET90
sensors
电机的槽
and
满率
chips and so
做
on,
到了
they have been
86%，
kind of
实现了领先的电机功
um,
率
you
和
know
超高的转速。
yeah, predated
采
by the
用
investments
高
of
效油
NIO
冷系统，
capital into some of these
冷却效
companies
率
like
大
Black
大提高，
Sesame or
电机的
other
持
providers
续功率
who
提升
have
了
been
30%。
innovating and
刚才
doing the
说的这
R&D
些
on
算
that
是
front, and
都
now
应用
NIO
到
is bringing that one
在都应用
in-house.
在 ET9
Sometimes
的后
people are
电机
asking
上。
me, how
ET9 的
is
后
NIO
电区
actually
是
benefiting
全
from
球
NIO
首款
Capital, which is a separate
925
entity,
伏
right? It's not
WLTP
that
峰
we
值
get
同步电
an
机，
immediate
峰值功率达到
valuation
340千
uptick
瓦，
in case that
性能
NIO
那么
Capital
强的
has a
这些领
company
域
that
呢，
has
数
a
量是不
rising
多的。
valuation. No, but they are
ET9 搭
in-housing
载
this
的
type of
180千瓦前感应异步电机，
technology
重
breakthroughs
量
like
并
now
不是769公斤，
here presented.
功
I
率密
think
度
this
2.6 千瓦每米，
high
是
power
行业功
density
率密度
motor
最高的
is
感应异
possibly
步电机
developed
率。
by XPT. That's a
全峰
100%
电机系
NIO-owned
统
company by
总
now,
体积减少
but
了
it's also a
30%，
NIO Capital
纵向
investment. They
尺
have
寸
been doing
缩
this
短了280度，
whole
为 ET9 的行政旗舰空间和
this
领
whole
先的
EV
底盘系
skateboard.
统
So
呢，
now
留下了
listening
非
a
常
little
大的
bit
空
more
间。
closely because I think they will
说
announce that
完
this
电驱
battery
动，
pack
我
is
们再
going
来
to be
说一下
thinner.
ET9 T9所应
Okay,
用的
this
最
is
新
also
电
about
子
a
系统。
large
ET9
cylindrical
将
cell.
使
So this
用
is
未来
the
纪元
4680
46
type
高
of
频率大感
similar
应电池，
battery technology here. What Tesla has kind of pioneered.
未来
Uh,
42.5 大量子电
I've
池
hinted that
具有
before also
超
in
高
some
能
of the
量密
videos.
度，
NIO has published those kind of
单颗
patents
电芯
before.
的
So we're looking here at the high energy density of this new battery. So this is why we can expect longer ranges and possibly a faster charging speed coupled with these new superchargers that they've announced, which was it 675 kilowatt? Correct me if I'm wrong, if I remember it. So going from the 500 even a little bit higher, and it's telling you that NIO is innovating on the battery cell level as well. They're not just buying everything from partners, and no, they are innovating their own battery technology. They are also a company that's innovating at the front of supercharging, right? People think, oh, NIO just has battery swapping. No, that's not the case. Ultra fast charging, 120 kilowatt hour battery. So this one will be a little smaller than the 150 kilowatt hour battery pack in terms of the power it can deliver. But the energy density is also quite high, and it can charge 255 kilometers in 5 minutes. So very fast charging. Let's see, maybe they talk also a little bit about the charging curve. And of course, you can always have the 3-minute battery swap. And the great, yeah, we'll have to see. I'm not sure if this new battery, which just have been announced with the cylindrical cells, will be compatible with all of the new cars. We'll see. Maybe it's exclusive to the ET9. In case I missed this bit of information, let me know in the comments. That's a very, very, very powerful battery in my point of view. And that one, I actually didn't anticipate that they will actually be announcing during this NIO Day, so that's a positive surprise. Although I have been seeing the cylindrical cells coming, right? So this, it's not a surprise in itself. I knew they were working on this, but I didn't count on it being released this NIO Day. So that's a great upgrade here. Yeah, private class, flying private, and self-driving in private. So we have to say this is a very performant vehicle, but maybe one bit that I missed so far is about the fact that the battery pack in the ET9 might be smaller. So initially, battery swapping is putting some design limitations because you have to fit the battery in the chassis in this battery pack that is standardized in size, and this might result in some difficulties for the designers and actually to make the car, rear wheel steering, yeah, to make the car not as high. But I think they have innovated on that regard with the ET9 as well. Maybe I missed it so far, or maybe they're still going to talk about this. And now I think we're going to see a couple of announcements here about this steering, which I think will also be able to not only introduce this rear wheel steering, but also a nice how to say, balance of the car. I think there's another. I posted it in a Patreon yesterday. There's a I think it's called Car Motion, who are doing it for the likes of Mercedes and so on, which really stabilizes the car. Like if it's going, in a fast speed of slalom, for example. And I'm expecting something similar to that, a very steady ride with this new platform here. Again, by the way, lots of these leaks and technologies have been discussed in my Patreon group. Feel free to join it for some exclusive contents as well as supporting this channel so we stay independent. No ads here, usually just talking what I want about, not what I get sponsored about. And that's why I can stay independent and give you also some extra insights in this Patreon group. So this topic also has been
接下来
become
是
an
动力。
important topic in the Chinese social media sphere with the
ET9
introduction of
搭
the
载
Li
的
Auto
天
Mega
行
and
全主动悬架
latest X
是
Xpeng
全球
MPV.
首
So
个
the
骑乘式
multi-purpose
液
vehicles,
压
those
全主
large
动悬
cars,
架。
the family cars, have been a very important segment
全主动悬架呢
lately in
是目
China,
前
selling very
业界
well.
最新的自
And
动驾系统，
one
高
of the
度影
benefits
迷和
of
高
the
度的生
Xpeng,
态调节
actually,
能
I
力
think it's called
和
X9,
感到空
isn't
气
it?
强度，加上
It's that
CDC
it
的组合。
can actually also
上个月呢，
you know,
保时
take
捷
very
发布
very
了它
sharp
新
turns
款
and
的
corners
帕拉梅
because of
拉，
the fact that it's
采
having
用了
this
非集成式的主动悬架。
rear
这项技术
steering, rear wheel
天
steering,
行全
as
主
will
动
have
悬架
this
技术
ET9
更
here.
领先一代，
And you know, Chinese
首次
consumers can be
将
very
减震
picky
器
about stuff like
与
that.
主
So
动式悬架电子单
it's
元同
great.
组
It's
建，
good that
响应速度
NIO is
更快。
introducing such kind of a technology as well.
它的核
Obviously,
心
the
呢
trend has been
是
set by
Clear Motion
Mercedes
主动式悬
in the
架电驱
past,
单元，
but I'm expecting that this
可以
will
在
become
1
a
毫
major
秒，
theme. Oh, actually, they're
也就
using
是
clear
千分之
motion.
1秒
That's what I
内
just
完
mentioned
成
about what I
信息
posted in
处
the
理、
Patreon
计
community
算和响
yesterday
应。
that I'm
高
expecting
性
that
能
they
无刷
will
电
have
机每
something
秒
like
可以
this in the
做
NIO car.
1000次
And
的
they're
动作
actually
调
using
整。
exactly the technology
通
that
过
I've
对
mentioned
减
before.
震
So we'll,
器
we'll
施加
possibly
阻
now
力，
see
实现
a
对车身
demonstration
承载
video
的实时调
about
整。
that this
这样的
yeah
高
type
速
of
响应和快速的
suspension
调节能
here
力呢， 让
will
车身的
enable
调
a
节速度可以达
remarkable
到空气弹簧的
steady and
60倍，
balanced um, driving experience
快速而精准的
even
调
if you're
节，带
turning
来
very
操控
fast
性、
or if
舒
it's a
适性和
bumpy
安
road.
全性的全
So
面
this
提升。
is you know, next level
非常
luxury
巧
on the
妙的是
road.
呢，天行全
And
主
this
动
is the
悬架还
latest
能实现动
latest
能回收，
shit in the industry, if
这个
excuse
瞬
my
时的
French.
峰值能量回收的功率可以达到5000瓦。 这样
It's
高
great
速
to
主
see
动
we're
式悬
approaching
架组合，
600
我们配备了4
people
颗，
in the live stream.
从而实
So
现了
welcome
4
to
种动
everybody
力
who's
组合。
newly joining
我
here.
们来看
By
几
the way,
个
you can
天
again
行
watch
全
this
主动
video
悬
as a
架在
recording
电驱
later
上
on.
的
I
实时
know
调整的特
there's
点。
a bit of a time difference. And
这个
yeah,
是
I'm
高
adding
速
my
弯，
commentary here around
可以做
NIO
到
Day,
无
and now
侧
you
倾，
see exactly what I mentioned before, the stabilization in
起伏路
taking
面，
corners, taking curves,
可以
when
做
going
到不颠簸。
in a slalom, what makes the ride much more enjoyable. And NIO, in fact, is using
我
exactly the
这2天
provider
准
which
备材
I
料，每
uh,
次看这个都想给它
kind
加
of
点 BGM，
expected they would use, or the similar technology that I
非常
expected they would use. They're
看着非常
introducing
着迷。
that one in the NIO ET9
几天前呢，
flagship now.
我们的工程
And
团队
you
用
know,
ET9 的
becoming on
4台
par
车
with the Mercedes, with the
实车
Maybach
测试
here,
了
which
天
which
行
is
全
kind
主
of
动悬
the
架的性能
segment
表
which
现。
they're
我们来看一下，
aiming for here. What's a bit interesting here possibly is that they are using this technology from I think, I mean, Clearmotion, that's a third-party provider, so it's not entirely self-developed, I would say, but they're integrating it. Yeah, here you can see the benefits, how stable it is. So you can see this will possibly benefit somebody in the car. As you've seen with the interior design, you now have this extremely comfortable seats where you can have your laptop on the stand, or there's 2 screens in the back, and you can watch entertainment or do a bit of work. And obviously then in that use case scenario, you want to have a stable ride, independent from what are the road conditions, and that's what's getting enabled by this type of Clearmotion technology. Okay, here's a little bit of
一开始啊，我
interesting
们团
insight
队
here. Thanks
他
for
们说要设
pointing this
3
one
层
out,
香
that
槟塔，后来他
Clearmotion
们
is
决定挑
actually
战4
invested
层
by
香槟塔。
NIO. I didn't know
我
that,
估计啊，
or I
他
didn't
挑
pay
战成
attention
功
to
了，
that,
我估计
so
我
I
们
have to see.
ET9 交
Possibly
付以
it's
后，
also NIO
大家都
Capital.
会变着法子去
But yeah,
测
that's a
各
US
种各样
company, and as
非
I mentioned
常
before, their clients
惊
are
叹的
usually
表现
Audi,
啊，
Mercedes, and so on.
如
And
履
so it
平
makes
地，
sense that this is also
行云
coming
流
into
水。
NIO cars now, especially with
天
such
行
flagship.
全主动悬架的超强
Peter
操
is
控性，
hoping that Chinese
能让
government is
ET9
going to use it. Yeah,
即使
we're
在
still
通过
waiting
颠簸
for the
起
day
伏地
that
面时，
NIO
也能
cars will
有
fully
行流
replace
程循环
the
般的表现。
Audis, which are the government cars, the black Audis. If you see a
天
black
行线
Audi,
控转向、
excuse me,
天行后
in
轮转
China,
向
you
和
usually
天
think that
行
there might
全
be
主
a
动悬架。
government official in
ET9
that
的
car.
天行自动底盘系
We've
统
seen a couple of purchases
是
by
全球
police
最智能、
or
最
yeah, maybe
舒适
also
的
some
底盘系
government
统。
officials, but you know, NIO is not yet the darling of the Chinese local government, other than Hefei, I would say, and certainly not of the central government.
ET9
Xi Jinping, for
是
example,
行
is
政
still
器件的
driving a
驾乘标
Hongqi
杆，
which might
也
be
必
one
须
of
是
the
行之起见
partners,
的安全标准。
um, upcoming partners
每多一
for
份安
battery
全，
swapping, as Hongqi is
就
part of
意
the
味着
FAW group and
这
doing
也是
battery
为什么
swapping already.
未来对
So
安全的投入
might
从
be
来没
one
有
of
止
the
歇过。
candidates to join as well.
ET9 的旗舰安全车身
Not sure,
采用
like
高强
also
度
talking about
干预铝合
expectations
金
for today
基复
again,
和材料，
whether or not they will
整
still
车抗御高
announce
度
another
高
partner.
达
I mean, they have
5,600
signed a
牛米每
third
吨，
partner, so there is some chances that they still announce a partner
安全
today.
性能超越全
Who
世界
knows?
最苛刻
As you
的
know
制
from
造
my
标准。
videos, I've been,
ET9
talking
拥
about
有
those
业界
the
最
five
大
big
热成
guys
型
that I
一
think
体
will
式前轮
gradually
盘，
be joining NIO.
从
I
A 级
already
B
ticked off two
一
of my
直延伸
list.
到第
Maybe
二
one
代，
of them will not join, like Dongfeng.
应
Maybe
用
that's
业界最高
not the one to
2000兆
join.
瓦
Maybe it's
高
somebody
强
else
度
instead.
低
And I
温热
think
成
there
型
might be
加热
even
板和车门防撞
one
梁， 能为
non-automotive related partner
车
to
上
join the
每一位
battery
乘
swap
客
system, but
提
more on
供
that
最好的
in
安全保护。
maybe first in the patron community, a little bit in our
全
all
车标
members
配符
chat.
合安
I
全气
will
囊，
open up a little bit on my
包
thoughts
含
on that.
专门针对后
I
排
don't
乘
want to
客的
put out too
2
many
排
rumors on
侧
this
气
here.
囊，
Today, let's
同
focus on
级
what
最
they
大
are
侧气帘，
telling
长
us here at
2.3 米，
NIO Day.
高
So
度
so
0.6
far,
米，
I would say a pretty
100%覆
impressive
盖前后排
product
乘客的保护区。
introduction here to the ET9.
针对
I
2
think
排
I've
乘客，侧
told you a
气
little
帘
bit
采
about
用
the
了行
context
业
that I
首
think
创
that
的
this is seen
微
as
型微
a
腔的设计
benchmark
概
for
念，
the entire NIO
可以为
fleet
各
and
种身高机型
um,
的成员提供
about
更有
really
效的
going
保
head
护。
on head with the German manufacturers in
刚
China.
才介绍了
Because
ET9 的
frankly,
被
that
动
was
安
also
全，
my
而
experience
且
with the
我们再来看看
ET7 that we got in
ET9 和
Germany.
主动安全
I
相
was
关的
missing
硬件
this
配置。
little bit, this little
感知
special
系统
thing, right?
对于主动安全来说至关重
A
要。
certain
ET9 的
flavor,
超感
user
系统全
experience
面升级，
inside of the car
天鹰座 Aquila
um,
2.0， 包含
that
超远距的激
didn't
光雷
get
达、
transported. I
双侧
really like
广角激光雷
the
达
sleekness
和
design,
4D
the
成像
quality
雷达
materials,
在
the
内的
exterior design.
31个高性
But
能感知元
maybe
件，
just a little bit more. And I think I'm having the
双
feeling
侧
that this
广角
could
激
be
光
the
雷达
ET9 really.
首次构
That
建
this, it's
350度
just one
激
more
光
price
环
class
向
up
感知
there,
技
of
术，
course, but
大幅提
this
升
looks
侧
like a
视、
very,
侧
very
边、
special
侧后
car
方
to
的感
me.
知能
And
力，
I'm very
首
optimistic
次
that there will
搭
be
载高精度
quite a few
4D 成像
buyers
雷
for this
达，
car.
点云密度
Of
高
course, the
达
market itself, the
2048，
total addressable market
高
isn't
速测量能力
isn't that
强，
big.
水平分辨率
We'll
高，
see NIO go
保
into the
证
mass
大语
market
大
segment
声
later with
大
the
物
sub
恶
brands,
劣
so
天
no
象
worries
耐
about
用
that.
很好的
They'll
保
also
证。
cover the other segments. But I think
谢谢。
within this segment, this car has some very, very good features
全
and
面升级的
very good
天
prospects.
鹰
That's my
座
first
Aquila
initial
2.0，
reaction to this.
最大可
Again,
感知范围超过40万
on the
平米，
technical levels, on the features levels, on
相
especially
当
the
于
quality,
60个
this
足
seems to
球
be
场的大
industry
小。
leading again. I
当
think
然我们要找那
Porsche
么大
will
的
be
平地
watching
啊，
very
60
closely
个足球
today.
场。
Mercedes-Benz will be
极
watching
大
very
提升
closely
了智
today.
能驾驶的表
And
现，
maybe they will have
也
some
是
headaches.
主动安全能力的坚
Actually,
实
there's
体
been a
现。
joking going around that lots of
感知系
car
统对于
companies
主
after
动
this
安全
presentation
是非
today
常
will
重要，
have possibly to
但智
rewrite
能
their
照明
marketing
呢，对于提
material
升
because they
行车
can
安
no
全也
longer
是非
say
常重
they're
要。我们认为啊，
the number one, the
灯光
best
技术
in
啊，
blah
它的
blah
本
blah
质
because
还是应该
possibly
强
the
调安全，
ET9 is going to
而不
replace
是用
them.
来作秀。
Yeah, very impressive so far, I
那
have to say.
所以 ET9
Of course, I
全
also
新的
think
智能高清投影大灯，技术创新的
hi
首要任务
Stefan,
就
good
是
to
要
see
在
you. One of
提
my
升行车
Patreon
安全、
members and one that
最新
I
的
met in
microLED 辅
Munich
助和
personally. So
超感系
sometimes
统
on my
深度
trips
融合，大幅
with
度
the
提
new
升蓝
cars
光环境下的
throughout
行车安全。
Germany, I'll be able to meet some of the
ET9 的智
patrons
能
around
照
the
明系统，
country, and
我们设
Stefan,
置
he's
了
one of
4
them.
个智能安全照
So
明
good
的
to see you
这样
here.
一个
What did
标
you
配的
miss?
安
Well,
全
you've
光智
missed
能
quite a bit
亮度
already,
网
I
智
would
能能
say.
源，
NIO
实现了
went
远近
straight
光
to
亮度侦
announcing the
查、
new
超广角
products.
覆盖、
So the new
超大
battery
水
swap
雷等
station
短暂光
for
束、
the
更远
the
的照射
NT
距离和像素级的
the
近距离
NIO
光，
ET9,
拥有
which by the way I think
智
is the
能
NT
顶级
3.0
光伏功
platform.
能，
So with all of this
能做
new
到
charging um,
低速式干路，
technology, the 900-volt
高速行
architecture,
进，
which in a sense is a 800-volt architecture, which will be compatible
还
with
能实现呢
multi-brand cars.
与其他
Uh,
车辆和行
so
人的
also
互动，
also the I think the other
表达这个驾驶
battery swapping partners will
降低
be
安全风险，
um,
这是全车的情
building
感，
their cars
也
on
体现
such
了
type of a technology on an 800-volt technology platform. But we haven't heard about anything about that yet during this presentation. So far, this has been
ET9
about the
的
battery
主被动
swapping
安全，
upgrade and
大
the
家都已经看了，
the
都已经说这是一
ET9
个经
here.
验数据，
And
但
notably,
是我们
like
道
I said, so,
每一次
luckily,
的气候
rightly,
革命
the leak that
都能
NIO
提
introduced
高
its own
汽车安
silicon,
全能
a
力的上
5
限。
nanometer
我接下来
chip,
讲的东西有点
self-driving
枯
chip,
燥啊，
which
但
will
是
be
我觉得这个普
more
及啊还是很重要的
performant,
啊。
will bring cost
智能化和
reductions in my
电
point
动
of
化的
view,
领先科
and will
技，
be more vertically
谈得
integrated
上
and
ET9 的
better
安全荣
fitted
誉提高到什么
to
样的
their,
高度呢？有什么东西我们以前没想
to
到，
their
但是
algorithms.
它是有机会提高到非常高度的呢？我们 ET9最大的突破点就是安全冗余。
And, yeah, just in the very beginning
安
before
全
the live
冗余这个
stream
设
of
计，它
NIO
是法
started,
定
I've
领
also
域最
went
初
through
的。
this whole
核
leaked
心的目标
document,
呢，
the marketing
就是通
document,
过
and
引
so
入备
far,
份系统，
my sense is
在
that it's
主
been
系
on
统
point.
失
This
效的
seems
情
to have
况
been
下，
an accurate leak.
备份系统能够立即工作，
All of
从而
the
提高安全性和
the
可靠
points
性。
of this marketing,
传统的汽
document
车，
have been met
它因
so
为先
far.
天的技术制约，无法对发动机等关键系统进行冗余设计，而智能电动汽车完全没有这
So
一
it's
功能。
meeting our expectations,
利
I would
用
say.
智能硬件、软件、电池、电驱系统的先天技术特性，我要强调先天技术特性，可以充分进行安全冗余设计，进一步推高汽车安全能力的上限。那 ET9， 我们针对智能汽车的7个关键系统进行了全面的安全冗余设计，包括驱动冗余、自动冗余、转向冗
So
余、
yeah, NIO has always
感
been
知
about
冗余、
safety, right? I
计算冗
mentioned
余、
that what I'm
通信
noticing, and
冗
I'm
余、
usually not
配电
posting
冗
that type
余，
of stuff,
简单来
because,
讲都有双份。
the
我们
China
一桶
social
一
media
桶来
sphere can
看。
be quite crazy.
首
So
先
they're
是驱
posting
动冗余，
accidents where
那
people
双电驱系统呢，
obviously,
它不仅带来
are
高
losing
性
their
能和
lives
可
and
持续能
stuff.
力，
And
它在本质上啊，它
recently, you
和
see
双
lots of
发动机
crashes
一
of
样，
Li Auto cars
它能
and
最大幅
Huawei
度
Aito
减少
cars,
动力完全停止的情况。
which are
我们的双电驱系
possibly
统在驱动安全方面，
that
可靠性
fatal
比
because
单电机
the auto
提
cars are
升
not
10
that
倍。
quality built like NIO cars, for example. The
自动系统
Aito cars aren't
好，
built
谢谢。
that
现在大家知
steady
道
and
为什么
rigid
我们不能交
either.
付双电机。
Also, when it comes to the
自动系
self-driving
统
capabilities, it
也
seems
增
that
加了
NIO
冗
is
余备份
working,
单元，
like explained here by
通过
Libin,
与
with more
自驾能力结
redundancy,
合，
more
备份
safety
的自动
aspects,
系
and so
统
on.
可以做到
And
随时接管，
it's becoming kind of an
保障
important
车辆降速，并且安全
purchase
停靠。
car purchase
自动可靠性
incentive or
最高
or
提升
decision factor.
513
And
倍。
while this is not a great topic to talk about, what's happening to those who buy a maybe
天
less
行线控
qualitative
转向
car compared
也
to
拥有
NIO,
双重
it's
硬件、
still,
双重晶片、
it's
双重
a
硬
major
件
part
和
of the
双重
NIO
软件的
strategy to
全冗余
focus
设
on this
计。
aspect. This, I
相
think
比
it's
现在市
also a
面上的
reason why we
EPS
have for a
电
long
动动
time
力
not
转向系
seen
统，
any of
可靠
these
性
videos that are now
还
coming
要
out
提
about
升
NIO,
2.2 倍。
NLP plus beta, so the self-driving, capabilities.
Aquila 2.0 超
And
感系统
they're
从
now
前
becoming
向
more
实现
confident,
了
I
视
feel,
觉、
about their
激光雷
capabilities
达和4D 成像
and
雷达
showing
的
them off. And you
3
can
层
also
感知
see
统一，
that the system, in terms of
侧幅上
how
实
it's
现了
performing on the
视
street,
觉和
is a
激
bit more
光雷达的
conservative,
双重环视
and
感知。
always having
最
safety
近
and
大家都
security as
说这个
the overriding
全视觉，
factor.
全视觉，
So it's
全
not
视觉
taking
当
any
然是
risks. It's
自驾的一个基
usually
础，
rather
但是
driving slowly,
激光
not
雷达也好，
human-like in
4D 成像
each
雷达也好，它更
interaction
多的
yet.
起到的是
But
冗
I
余
think
这方面的作用，感知冗
that
余的
has
作
been
用。
stressed by
这些
Libin, and
感
the
知冗
autonomous
余
driving team
能够
always
大
like
幅提
the
高
main focus of
用
NIO with
安全冗
autonomous
余设计
driving
的
is
驾
to
驶的可靠性。
increase the user experience.
ET9
And what they mean
拥
by
有
that is
2颗
free
神经
time.
90315芯
And I
片，
think that will
1颗主
become
计算，
apparent here
另一颗实时
with
备
the
份，实
ET9,
现毫
with
秒
this
级的系统
balanced
切换，
chassis,
确保自驾安
with
全，
this
还能
suspension
加
and
速
so on,
安全能
that
力
you
的
will be
持续
able to
训练
work
和
in
迭
this
代。
car, and the car will possibly
整
be able
车
at some
运
point in
用
time
车
to
规最先进
self-drive
的千兆以太
90% of
网
the
网系统，
time,
实现了关键
and
安全信息传输
with
及质
safety
量。
becoming
相比
a
传统
major
的
factor
整车
besides
通信架
this
构，
the
可
topic
靠
that you
性
will be
提升
able
了
to
30
free
倍。
up some time and being able to work in
这
this
个安全冗
perfect
余一
environment
上
that the
来啊，
ET9
很
here
多
is
可靠性都
creating.
是
So
必须
these are
配
the
置。
main topics for NIO. Whereas,
整
for
车配
example, if you
电
go
系
with the
统
Tesla
同
strategy,
样
it's
具
about
备冗余能
creating
力，
this huge fleet of
900伏高压架
robotaxis
构
around the world
提
and
供
kind of
动
have
力
this
双路供电， 整
ride-hailing
车低压
business
系统
model around it, right? I
拥
haven't
有
heard
双
so
电
much
源
about that
加
from NIO
双
yet. In
路
fact,
供
I
电
haven't
的
heard
设
about
计，
it. So
可靠性
doesn't seem to be
提
part
升
of
至少
strategy yet.
倍。
So what we haven't heard yet about is about Nomi GPT.
谢谢。
So what Nomi, the digital assist, can do,
所
and
以
possibly becoming more
智能
intelligent.
电动
I
技术
think that was also one part of
它
the
让
leaks.
安
Still
全可靠
expecting
性成
that
倍数增长。
Li Ben will be
过去
introducing
几
that.
年呢， 未
So
来
far, we
在
can tick the
冗余安
boxes
全研
for the
发方面
self-driving chip,
进行了持续坚决的
for
努力。
an upgraded battery swap
全站自
station.
研
However,
能
as I
力
mentioned, it was more of an
让
incremental
ET9
update.
的
It's not
7
yet
层
this
安全语音
multi-brand
设
battery
计
swap
得
station,
以
so
实
possibly
现。
we don't
这个
see
没有
that
能力是不能实
during
现的，
this NIO Day.
是一
It
个
might
非
be
常复杂
a
的系统。
separate event which will be more dedicated to
从
all of
被
these
动安全、
multi-brand
主动安
battery
全到
swapping
智能安全
developments
冗
with
余
the partners.
，ET9
But
定义了
I still
智
think that
能
with
电
this
动时
ET9
代的旗舰安全
shown
标准。
today and this the platform that we've seen where they have now introduced also a new battery with cylindrical cells that is
前
super
阵
fast
旗舰
charging and so on. I
从
think
来
that
都
this
是
will
技
be
术
the
旗舰，
platform which others
全
will
球
be
领
building
先的
on
自驾
cars
芯
as
片
well. It might,
神
you
机
know, it might be
9031，
a little bit
全域900
um,
伏高压架
a
构，
little bit
天行智
customizable
能
for
底
those
盘，
brands,
旗舰
but
安全标准。
ultimately I think
今
that's
天
where the shared packs
我跟大家
will
简
fit
单介
in.
绍了 ET9 的几
And
项突破与
you
创新，
know, as I
但
get
这
this
远
question
远不是
often,
全
yeah,
部。
I think Mercedes-Benz at some
ET9
point in
拥有
time will be
17
forced
项全球首发的技
to
术，
become a partner and build
52项
their
功
own
能性
car
配
on
置
this
同级
platform.
领先，
Um,
已经
not
升级
financial
的专
advantage,
利
not
达到了
you
525
know,
项。
you can correct me if I'm wrong on this,
ET9
but I think it will
是
be
当
coming.
之无愧的行政旗舰，
And you know, this
是当
car,
之
the
无愧
ET9,
的
will
技术
put
旗
lots
舰。
of pressure on Mercedes-Benz. They have really weak EV sales in China currently, and China is a very important market to them. So let's
创新
watch this video.
是一场满是泥泞的马拉松。当质疑盖过了喝彩，你还相信自己的坚持吗？有一些人，他们相信那些前所未见的，再把相信变为现实。仰望星空，脚踏实地，明天属于那些相信的人。
Very nice.
感想有为，未来 ET9 为创新引领者打造的智能电动行政旗舰。ET9
I don't know about you
作
guys,
为
but it makes
全
a very
球
good
智能
impression
电
on
动
me
汽车的技术旗舰，
so
汇
far.
聚了大量的技术突破与创新。今天呢，我只介绍了其中的一部分，后续会与大家进行更详细的沟通，敬请期待。这么多的创新科技，我们呢需要把验证和测试工作做得非常充分。2025年1季度 ，ET9 将开启交付。提前1年发布是算比较快的啊。但今天呢，
Yeah, I mean,
就开始接受预
Chinese
定，
consumers are impatient, right?
参考预售价格为
Obviously, everybody
80
would
万
love to
元，
drive this car next year. 800,000 RMB. Wow.
正式上市前的所有预定用户都可以获得5000元预定金抵扣1万元购车款的预定权益，并且能够获得一份特别的礼遇：100小时高端专属司机服务。我觉得这个服务啊，对于 ET9 的用户来说是
So
非
that's
常好
around
用的。当然，我们未来的
112,000
朋友都知
US
道，我们的
dollars
驾享
as a
是非
reference.
常好用的。
So that's
现
really
在就可以在未来
a
APP
juicy price tag here,
预定这款
which
划
from an
时代
investor's
的行
perspective,
政旗
which is
舰、
rough, they
划
possibly
时
have
代
a
的
very high
科技
margin
旗
on
舰。
this. That's great. I don't know whether the market will give that a lot of
我们今天的网布的
front
很好
run
啊，
in
大
the
家可以
sense
下载。
that they will start pricing in the revenues to come from this
接下
model.
来
You know,
有
given
请
how
今
far
年
out it
NIO Day
is
的
and
表演嘉宾
how difficult the markets are
西安
currently,
籍
not
著
very
名摇滚歌
forward-looking
手
given
许
the
巍。
10-year.
今天呢，
Yeah,
他
now a
会
bit
为我
of
们带来6首
Neo
作品。
band. Let's see, maybe they have one more fin
舞台的准
today.
备啊，我们需要点时间啊。在准备过程中，
Yeah, as
也让我们
I
一起
try
来
to
回
set the
顾
expectations here a little
过
bit,
去
right,
6
on
届
the
NIO Day 的精彩瞬
on the
间。
announcement
我
of
不
this
知道
car
除了
that
我
this
以外
is
有没有
meant
人
as a flagship
6届都参
model.
加了啊？ 你参加了这是必须的。
It's
好，
not about
行，
the
那我们就
volumes of these
安
cars.
心的
It's
等
more
待一下。
of this car. It's more about the technology that this car will bring onto the market, really. And as I mentioned before, I'm fully expecting that this will trickle down into NIO models in some sort of a different
其实这个就是我们定义
on
的
a
未来
different
每年
scale
一
and
次的
so
一个
on.
我们
That's Ted Lee, the NIO
一起打
head
party
of
的一个
design.
哦，
Yeah, let's see. Maybe they have still something to
未来
announce after this
源于
video,
一个
or
清朗性
maybe
的
even
概
now
念。
the new band or this artist
我们用
is
这样一个
playing.
logo
We'll see.
来表达我们的理
But
念，
meanwhile, let me
既要
do a
仰望天空，
little wrap
也
up
要
of
脚
what
踏
we've
实
seen
地。
so far. So again, they introduced the Neo ET9, which in my point of view is looking
我
like
们向大家隆重介
a
绍
great effort
全
of
球首个
R&D
车
initiatives by
载
NIO.
人工
So
智能系统。
you know,
No
we're
me.
usually hearing a lot about how NIO is investing lots of money, and personally, I do like that because you want to invest in a tech leader, and I think NIO has demonstrated that today on various degrees. For example, showing us this new battery
未
pack
来换
with
电站
cylindrical cells,
可以
which
实现
I knew they were working on, but I
3分
didn't
钟
know
换
they
电。
would announce it
现
today.
在我们
They
就
announced
来
new
进
fast
行
charging capabilities. They
现
announced a new
场
battery
演
swap
示。
station and a quicker swap. They announced various new
智能的
technologies
车，
with this
愉悦的
flagship
生活
model,
方
the
式。
ET9,
ES8
which
将重
is
新
about
定义汽车
suspension,
的
the
用户
drive, the
体验。
comfort, the user experience, the interior design, the screens, and so on. So these are some of the basics in automotive, but it's also introducing some hardcore technologies like their own silicon and chipset, and a new EV skateboard that has better technical specs. So, you know, all of that takes money. It takes skills, takes patents, takes
2018
know-how.
年可以说未来的
It's
踏上
crazy
了
that
这
NIO
个
can
重
pull
要的
this off
台阶。
as
比
a
如说
as a
它的
little
10000辆车的下线，
as a little startup here, right?
我觉得这是未来专门为
So
他们的用户。
this is why I think this has been, in my point of view, so far a pretty exciting NIO Day, or let's say very substantial, very solid product demonstration. It seems also they take in the user feedback very seriously. For example, also about how we've seen a couple of social media accounts on Weibo appearing by NIO employees talking about what they're doing on the self-driving front, on the battery swap front, on this NIO chip, which I said before, you know, the way I'm reading some of these messages, I'm expecting NIO to release their own chip. I expect it to be 5 nanometer, again, which is a huge blow to those who think that Chinese companies will stop innovating because of some of the sanctions out there. You know, that's the way how they learned. I think a little bit also they learned how to conduct this NIO Day. Actually, in the past, we had those lengthy introductions with lots of movies and concerts and NIO band and so on. And this time, they pretty quickly jumped right into you know, what makes the NIO Day from an investor's perspective, with the new introduction of new products. And we'll see whether or not they still have something to announce for today. I think a couple of things they didn't announce that I was looking forward to. For example, you know, the huge topic right now is, of course, about all of these battery swapping partnerships. which I think they have now made 2 official. One more they have signed, which they didn't announce yet for reasons we don't know. And they didn't put more clarity on that for today so far. Let's see, is there something? No, there's not Liebens talking again. But no more clarification on that front. So I was also expecting maybe the 4th generation battery swap station to be the one which is multi-brand and having like those 6 channels and stuff. Possibly that's not what they're gonna announce at all this today. It was more an incremental update to the current NIO swap station, so that will stay NIO brand and possibly be open to some of the sub-brands. Possibly, we're not sure about that yet, but I think not open to any of the partners. What I'm still expecting is that they will come up with a multi-brand battery swap station that will be able to handle lots of cars at the same time and will be open and compatible with NIO brands, but also other brands. So what I'm also taking away from this is with the fact what I just mentioned, that NIO employees are more active on Weibo and so on, the learnings that they made here with NIO Day, and some of these things not being announced today, which, you also have to think, this is not an investor presentation today. They're now catering the NIO users who are coming to Xi'an today and celebrating the company and being an owner and so on. So this is more about those car products and so on, but it's not investor related of a presentation. So I think what we'll see coming soon is possibly a next event which will be covering more only about NIO autonomous driving. I mentioned how they have done huge progress on that front in the last couple of months, actually, after the NIO Day presentation. And we've today seen, like with the NIO ET9, how they were catching up with some of those things that they have been presenting. So with the SkyOS, with the integration between hardware and software. So these have been themes that have been introduced with the NIO Innovation Day, right? And so I'm expecting that they're going to do a couple more innovation days in which they're going to be going more into depth on some of these topics, which might be more hardcore on a tech level and also more relevant, frankly, to us on an investor side. So, let's expect a couple more frequent presentations like that. And then also, in my point of view, a more dedicated event to the topic of the battery swapping partnerships. As you see also with the ET9, it's taking a bit of time to develop the car and bringing it out into the market. You will only get the deliveries in 2025. Similarly, I think it's taken some time with the battery swapping partnerships until those partners have actually come out with cars that are compatible with this new system built on the NIO platform. So Chang'an, for example, has announced that this will be 2025. I'm also expecting for maybe some Western brands will actually, don't want to be in the front lights here and possibly will commit to this partnership platform at some point, but maybe let the Chinese brands like Chang'an and so on do the first steps. And later on, we'll see also maybe some Western brands announce a partnership and car models based on this platform. That's my point of view. I think that must be the end goal with all of these ideas of sharing the battery swap system. So this is kind of how I'm expecting things to go forward and what we can look forward to also as an investor. I think there has been indeed the screen has stopped. The stream has stopped now, so there won't be one more thing. Or did I just? No. It seems I accidentally hit the pause button. Anyways, I don't know if they're coming back to stage or if this will be a loop now in the background. Correct me if I'm wrong. If you've seen something that I've missed, just write it in the chat, and I'll be happy to take some questions now. But again, I know my sense is that we can look forward to some more of these events now. And of course, I always get the question like how I'm seeing these events, being replicated in the stock price. Now, maybe let's let's talk about this current NIO day and what I think will happen with the NIO stock price. I think from a stock investor point of view, today the most important part was possibly the NIO Silicon, the self-driving chip, which they confirmed today. One could say, because I leaked it yesterday already, also on Twitter, it's public knowledge, in a sense. The institutional investors, they know already more than we do in advance. There's people doing channel checks. People know who is building what and what are the suppliers and so on. So somebody always knows. We're the last to know as retail investors. Unfortunately, I'm trying to do as good as a job as I can. And so, by the way, you can support us for the work we're doing if you appreciate these live streams and the content I put out from time to time. And again, that's sorry to say that currently my content is less frequent due to the fact that I just started a little family and finishing some important projects towards the end of the year. But be sure whenever I have the time, I'm out on YouTube and trying to create as much content as I can around Chinese stocks in general, Chinese tech trends, Chinese innovation, which is a hot topic and also a difficult topic given the geopolitics surrounding this, but also in particular about NIO, which I think is one of the most exciting and most important creative, innovative companies out there. I think lots of people are kind of underestimating what NIO is doing here. And I think that was demonstrated again today with what NIO put out there. Very, very solid presentation in my point of view, very, very solid product presentation. And so, over time, I think investors have to accept the reality that this company is doing great stuff. Yes, they're putting a lot of investment forward and spending lots of money now, but you see with these presentations that this is not going to be spent on some things that will not at some point in time achieve a return on investment. I think over time we will see that quality prevails. Or maybe that's just my German perspective on things like that. But I really appreciate that NIO is a new type of a Chinese company that is not going out there and simply copying stuff or doing stuff cheaply. You have many Me Too products currently in the market, which is, by the way, a very difficult market simply because of the fact that everybody wants to sell EVs. But it's my opinion that I think NIO will be one of the companies who will prevail in this current price war, in this current competition, and so on. And these events are mainly instilling my confidence in that as well again. And so the stock is not the company is not the stock over time. I think the stock will have to catch up with the realities of what this company is creating. And to be frank, the NIO's finances are not great currently. There are lots of dark clouds around NIO's future as well. So I do see why this negative the bear case is currently the main case, right? I would say with around $8 stock price currently, NIO is definitely priced for not a worst case scenario, but a very negative scenario, right? I would say in a more friendly macro environment, even with the current sales levels around 160,000 cars for the year, it's still a 30% year-over-year growth in a very difficult segment, the high-end, high-price segment. And that's remarkable. It's not easy to achieve, especially as a new brand like NIO. And I would say if the multiples were comparable to that of competitors, and if we would have a less dramatic interest rate environment, NIO stock could easily be priced in double digits, maybe up to $20. I think that would be a valuation that could be supported by the fundamentals of this company, but obviously that's currently not the case. And you don't always get what you wish for in the stock market, unfortunately, but that doesn't mean that the company is not doing well on the fundamentals. And thanks, Melanie, by the way. Hit the like button, yes, and become a subscriber, because if you're a subscriber, you can also post questions. I will now get into some of your questions here. If you have any question about what I'm just saying here, or anything that I'm not saying, anything that I missed, please put it in the comment section. I'm happy to talk about it. And again, so I just talked about the stock price and how it's not what we are hoping for and wishing for. In fact, it's been a very, very difficult hold in my point of view. And if you watch this whole live stream in the beginning, I've been talking also about this Abu Dhabi deal, where I'm personally very critical of the way it's been done. I know I've been very vocal about this, so I've told my opinion on Twitter. I've told my opinion on YouTube. I may have lost a couple of subscribers and followers because of that, and even, frankly, unfortunately, some patrons. But I can just say what I say and what are my views, and I think it's not been done in the optimal way, given of the facts that we know of today. I think, of course, it's some relief now, coming back to the fundamentals of the company, that now with around $8 billion in cash, the bankruptcy fears should be really non-existent at this point anymore, right? And I think for NIO it's crucial to resolve and address that issue, because it's also an issue for prospective car buyers that are possibly hesitating to buy a new brand if they think the company will possibly not exist in a couple of years anymore, right? And kind of putting in this certainty here, that was my key takeaway of the Abu Dhabi deal, with this new financing, of course, helps with those long-term prospects. And of course, NIO will possibly need a little bit more time to break even, unfortunately. And we always should be aware of the fact that we are investing here in a startup, which of course could fail, right? There is not a certainty that NIO will reach break even at some point. And I initially only invested in NIO as the NIO brand, this high-level brand where we today saw this Neo ET9 flagship as like the ultimate vision here of what NIO strives to achieve. Now, what's coming in 2024 and something to look forward to also will be the sub-brands, of course, for NIO. So heading into those below 300,000 RMB segment. So the lower price tiers, that's where the volumes are. And what we know so far, that NIO is doing very, very well in the current premium to luxury segment. And by the way, again, with the ET9, I think we'll also see again that NIO will be doing very well even at this highest point segment. And we will see hopefully very, very nice margins around that. Nice absolute earnings also as well. Sometimes people are saying like, how much money NIO is losing per car, and I think that's a little bit misleading, because what I'm personally looking at is usually the vehicle margin, right? So you have a product, you create it, and then can you charge a higher price tag on that product than what it has cost you to manufacture it? And you can do that even during this very difficult time of transitioning to this new platform. NIO always, even if it was just slightly 6%, made more money on a car than they actually made had to invest for producing it. And so this is something which NIO sets apart from even some of the competitors like XPeng, right? XPeng has negative vehicle margin. Now, I would argue it's much easier to sell a car that you sell below the price that is actually costing you to produce it. And now with NIO, of course, the problem is that there is still overhead, like all of these R&D expenses that we've seen today and what they are being invested in, all of this technology, that needs to be covered and be paid for at some point by those positive vehicle margins. And that's currently not the case, but at least they have the positive vehicle margins, because at these high price tags, let's say now with the ET9 at more than 100,000 RMB, right? If they manage to do a 20% vehicle margin on that, or let's say only 15%, that's great, because the absolute amount of what NIO will be earning on each of these cars sold will be huge. In contrast to that, you have currently an XPeng selling at negative, which means they're actually not even making any money on the cars that they're selling. And maybe in the future, if they reach the right volume, still it's going to be low-priced cars. And then even if you put a 20% margin on that, they're still earning less on that per car, right, than NIO is doing on the unit economics. And that's, for me, exciting as an investor. That's why I'm investing in NIO. That's why I like the company more than some of these competitors out there. And now we'll see in 2024 that NIO is also going to be jumping into those lower tier segments, which they guided for 20% of vehicle margins as well, which I find hard to believe. But now we see also with this NIO day today that NIO really is starting to get into this topic of, they're taking the production in-house, they're buying the factories, they're now merging the software and the hardware, becoming even more vertically integrated. They have their own EV platform and chassis, which they keep on innovating, and it's all being done by their 100% owned company. And when now they manage to introduce new sub-brands based on that and can therefore split the cost of all of that between more cars, larger volumes, then of course, and that must be the goal here, they can more easily break even at some point. Because I think that's possibly why the stock is currently not moving. That's one of the questions, right? How are investors going to react to this NIO day? Or why is the stock recently not moving based on positive news? I think parts of it is because the expectations towards the NIO brand, those premium to luxury vehicles, is quite, the expectations, the future outlook is quite pessimistic currently. I think NIO is not growing that much as they should. They're not going to achieve break even on that part of the NIO brand as quickly as we have anticipated. And frankly, you're in a market where you're competing on opportunity cost, right? I can invest in any US stock currently, which I think we've seen US stocks are only going up, 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 up. I think it's, to be honest, a not so efficient allocation of capital in my point of view. Some US stocks are trading at really elevated valuations in my point of view, and I think that will reverse at some point in time. We've started to see the US dollar strength going down again. The yields are coming down. So all of that a little bit, related to what the Fed is doing in order to fight inflation. And it seems that the war against inflation might be over, although some, of course, also fear that this might be coming back at some point. So it's going to stay volatile. But anyways, in this type of environment, of course, it's very difficult for NIO stock to strive. Because investors can basically say, I'm going to wait till 2025 when this ET9 is out and we'll see the actual numbers. I'm going to wait till the macro environment is not only getting a bit to US stocks, but also getting back to emerging markets, getting back to global markets. There's no reason to invest in a company that's not profitable yet in the views of investors. But I think this, from a retail investor perspective, is also the opportunity, right? When the stock price is low and you are doing your due diligence in this company, you're understanding where this company is going, you can actually kind of start front running Wall Street, if you will. I know Wall Street, they need the certain type of numbers that I can put into Excel sheets. You are looking pretty dumb if you're now an institutional investor and you go into an unprofitable company that keeps on tanking, right? You know, those people, they have jobs, they need to get year-end bonuses and stuff like that. So they don't want risk. They don't want taking that risk as of now. And if you're in a situation that you don't need your money in 1 to 2 years, but, see this as a decade of an investment, as a long-term investment, then you can tap into that market. I'm not saying that this is a no-brainer buy here. We've seen how volatile the stock is. We've seen that this company could come to the verge of bankruptcy, but I think events like today show also where this company is headed and possibly having a bright future. And then, make up your own mind what this company could be worth in a market where the macro environments are turning and the company at some point in time also becoming profitable. This will be a huge catalyst at some point. And I think then at some point we will see also investors coming back and have this short-term outlook again on your stock. Of course, that was fueled in the 2021 rally, which we all have been part of, which was very exciting. And as a volatile growth stock as Neo, it was a great run, right? But it's important that Neo makes the right moves. And so far, let me know in the comments what you think. Has Neo done the right moves today with what they've announced? Maybe let's take some of your questions. I'm talking lots of stuff. And in the back, we still see somebody playing music. Wei Xu, I've never heard of him before. Might be a well-known Chinese musician. Please excuse my ignorance for Chinese music. Actually, China has a really good independent music scene in Beijing or Shanghai and some of the cities. All right, bring on your questions and comments, and I'll be happy to go through it. And let's see if they come back on stage after this music event, or if indeed this was the Neo Day for this year. Yeah, Peter is kind of rightfully pointing out something that I've touched upon here as well. Basically, if you look at companies like Rivian or Lucid, who have nowhere near the fundamentals of Neo in sense of even now by cash standards, cash equivalents on a balance sheet, but also of course the monthly volumes. And as I said before, like Neo is in this segment, the premium to luxury segment. It's not all about volumes, but those companies are still, just because they're US companies, valued higher on a market cap comparison to Neo, which is sad for now. But we have to consider that we are currently in a risk-off scenario in which growth and technology stocks, and especially emerging markets, and with that in particular China, is not in the favor of global investors. Yeah, what I say about a $20 target price, I think, well, I don't have it ready here now, but if you watch some of my previous videos where I've done this very basic napkin valuation based on the delivery numbers, based on the average sales price, based on market multiples, there is a scenario which I think at current variables of the company and better variables when it comes to the market prices could go definitely up into double digits, but maybe up to 20 USD, maybe putting it at a 30 billion market cap indeed. I think there is one scenario which could be argued for in a larger bull market, but that's not the case. Of course, it would be pricey at that point. I would agree that. So I'm certainly usually trying to buy companies when the valuation is rather low to get a good bargain. I would argue that currently with Neo that is the case. So I would say currently you are getting a bargain if you're investing in Neo. But you see, I mean, the markets, as well as they are over exaggerated on the downside sometimes right now, they also sometimes are over exaggerated on the high side. And that would certainly be a a case where NIO investors would be far more looking into the future of the company, discounting cash flows that are multi-years down the line, down the road. I think currently that's not the case. Nobody is looking at what NIO cash flows will be in 10, 20 years. Given the high yields, the 10-year and so on, that's not the case. And so very short-term oriented markets, and therefore this 20 USD price tag seems kind of out of reach currently. It's certainly the reality of the markets that they're not giving that kind of price tag currently. But I would say if markets generally improve, it wouldn't be a surprise to me if suddenly, there would be some hype and investor excitement, and we'll see those prices can happen. Good question. Is NIO seen as a tech company or no? I personally see them as a tech company, but if you look at the valuation, which is around 1 times price to sales multiples, more or less, it's valued like a legacy auto manufacturer that is not growing, has no technology, and so on. So it's basically priced at this point in time as a simple manufacturing company. And but as we've seen today, bringing out their own silicon, a 5-nanometer chip, having all of the software capabilities now when it even comes to autonomous driving. And maybe I should put out more of those videos of NIO self-driving cars on the channel. Currently, I'm posting most of that on my Twitter. This is certainly not a manufacturing-only company. They have certainly some capabilities which are far exceeding that, which are more on the software side, which I think will show us software type multiples and margins at some point in time. Currently, those revenues are too small, possibly in the short-term oriented market to play out, but in the future they will, in my point of view. And as I'm also mentioning a couple of times, the reason why I'm invested in NIO, in addition to being invested in Tesla, and I know many Tesla bulls are hating on NIO because they think it's actually kind of a competitor or a copycat, and I'm seeing that differently. I think NIO is going different in many ways, but certainly also Elon Musk has become quite vocal about NIO as a competitor, sometimes commenting on their progress and how NIO compares to Tesla. So you can see this competition is kind of heating up, and I think we'll see more of that when NIO is entering with the sub brands into those lower tier segments. I think that's when Tesla will be getting more challenged by NIO, in effect. And in some ways, I really don't like that as well, because I'm also a big Tesla shareholder, and I'm having to say I'm getting a little bit less optimistic about Tesla's prospects in China due to the fact that the competition is really heating up in China, and Tesla has not been on the forefront of innovation in China. The recent updates with the Model 3 Highland have been quite cosmetic in many ways, and it's not really the latest tech. It's certainly nowhere near to what NIO has introduced, for example, today with the ET9, and also very recently what we're seeing with those self-driving NOP plus beta videos. This is more advanced stuff than what Tesla has to offer in China. I'm saying in China because Tesla FSD in the US is certainly also showing some advanced stuff. And I cannot judge that as much as I can judge the progress in China, because my level of expertise is more on what's happening on the Chinese side. And I can say NIO is certainly up in the top 3 with Huawei and XPeng, in my point of view. I think they have largely caught up with XPeng, and I'm wondering if XPeng is here kind of losing its USP, because they've always been, marketing themselves, branding themselves a little bit more as the tech company here, the more nerdy company. And I'm seeing that the NIO NLP Beta Plus is really becoming as sophisticated as XPeng's self-driving versions now, also in cities, and possibly will be overtaken it based on what NIO has shown off at NIO Day and so on. And yeah, currently I'm only seeing Huawei as being substantially more sophisticated in China currently, and Tesla is nowhere near that, unfortunately, I have to say, in China. And so, yeah, this is heating up, and NIO is a tech company, clearly, with that. And on top of that, that was going to be my point in this NIO versus Tesla comparison. I think, is that NIO is building more of an ecosystem and a platform business model. And that will become very exciting with now hopefully battery swapping becoming multi-brand, and these partnerships are currently not valued by investors as well, simply of the fact that investors don't know how to put a number on these partnerships currently. So it will take more time, but NIO is building out an energy infrastructure in China, and we're just at the emergence of this market, with China just starting to introduce energy arbitrage trading, something we have in Europe here, where battery swap stations will be part of balancing the grid, not only becoming a way of replenishing your power very quickly or being able to upgrade your battery or choose between battery technologies and battery sizes and stuff. No, also battery swap stations have the benefit that they can be built where such high power is not accessible. That is usually necessary for the high power superchargers, and on top of that, where possibly large parts of the grid are using renewables from solar and wind, which are fluctuating, which are inconsistent, and then you need some sort of energy storage in between. And we know that NIO is part of some EU Horizon funded projects, which is basically EU funds exploring ways of balancing the grid. And so we can see that this is a topic in Europe, but as I just mentioned out, it will be even more so a topic in China, which is one of the largest, which is in fact, I think, the country which has the largest build out of renewables on an absolute amount of how much renewables they build each year. So it's also the largest producer of solar panels, and of course, with that, they will be largely also looking into, energy storage. And with that, I think battery swapping will play a role. I've done, I think, 2 videos now on the topic of virtual power plants, which is basically a way of, connecting the energy grid and forming a way of consumers and energy suppliers, with that being one integrated part being battery swap stations. And so, we'll see huge developments, fast developments in these areas on the energy side, I think in China as well. Yesterday, I think I posted on Twitter, we've got the news that Tesla has now officially kicked off their energy mega packs business in China as well. That's just another sign that the energy market will be getting some traction in China, and Tesla wants to be part of it. Tesla, of course, having a different strategy here with their mega packs, which they are selling as a separate business. The Neo battery swap approach is a little bit different here, in my point of view, because it's kind of a dual use. It's both for the EV cars, but as well for the energy storage part of functionality here. So that's what I like about it. It's smart. And so, lots of talking now, but coming back to this, this is an ecosystem. This is a very innovative new business model that's having a huge moat, in my point of view, meaning it cannot be easily copied. That's also why NIO is spending big on these infrastructure build-outs. That's why they're ahead of the curve with the largest supercharging network in China, the largest energy network, the largest battery swapping network, and so on, where the others have to catch up. And I think most of them will not catch up with what NIO has done. And that's why they are tapping into financing, tapping into funding, because that's just the China speedway, where you have to be first. You have to be the first, the quickest one. You have to be the one who's doing the largest, and so on. Otherwise, you will not survive in this very competitive market that is China. So, a couple more comments, I hope, in here. Still around 500 viewers live. That's great. Welcome everybody who's now still joined newly. So I've been streaming the NIO Day here on the channel. You can rewind and go back and watch the recording later on. I started with a little bit of my expectations, then walked through a couple of leaks and commenting on that, and then indeed saw some of these leaks being confirmed. in the product announcements of the new battery swap stations of the ET9 and so on. Some stuff they didn't talk about, which I've expected. There was also some surprising stuff like the cylindrical cells, which they've introduced a new battery pack and a technology similar to the Tesla 4680. Maybe I have to go back and see some of the couple of details, for example, around NIO GPT and so NOMI, what it can do around how slim the new battery packs are, if they have any more hints about the multi-brand and so on. But anyways, that kind of sums up this presentation here, which was more about the ET9 as a flagship, introducing lots of new technologies that I think are industry leading and will put huge pressure on Porsche in China, BMW in China, Mercedes in China. And so, it's going to be interesting, 2024 and of course 2025 forward when they will bring and deliver this car. 2024 will possibly be more about the NIO sub-brands. And as I concluded in this live stream earlier when it finished with the NIO live stream, I think we're going to see a couple more dedicated events going forward, speaking more about the investor relevant stuff, the tech relevant stuff, and maybe also those partnerships and sub brands. I think these will be separate events. It's good that they still have not fired all of their shots yet. So in a way, some would say this is a bit disappointing that they didn't announce everything today. Let me know in the comments your views, but I'm personally not disappointed by that. I would be rather concerned if they would, announce everything today. So still a couple of question marks after this event, in my point of view. But overall, still, I would rate this as a success. And as I've been asked before, I would not say that investors have been overly excited about this NIO Day and event. So I wouldn't say that there is lots of expectations priced into that. We'll see whether or not the stock price will be negative towards this event like it has been in the past. With the NIO Berlin, Germany event was a huge sell-off afterwards. With the NIO days in the past, it's been usually also driven by the markets overall, but also a little bit by disappointments, or maybe also by some manipulation and short seller activities. Activities there that basically made these events being reflected negatively in the stock price. But as I just said, also, I'm having rather long-term view on that. We're going currently through a period of really very bad sentiment out there in the markets, and it's not a good time if you want to exit your NIO investment and sell your shares, of course. Maybe some people like who followed this channel early days in 2019 and have become investors back then, like I have a nice average around $2 or $3. We are still positive on our investments, but people who just gotten to know about NIO in 2020 or 2021 during the hype days possibly are sitting at unrealized losses. So obviously you guys cannot sell currently, but as I mentioned, the stock's not the company is not the stock. You should do your own due diligence and decide whether or not this company has some prospects to succeed. And there will definitely be also better times ahead. Well, not definitely, but hopefully. And in that case, we will possibly see hype again. We will possibly see the real numbers coming in that Wall Street can finally put into their Excel sheets and kind of, valuing the stock in a way that we are thinking it should be valued already today. Meaning a couple more billions in market cap and more comparable to some of the competitors out there. And so, you can always, the money is being made in markets where the stock is down, not in markets where the stock is up, as stupid as it sounds. But of course, you need to have a low entry. And the question is whether or not the low entry is now or, has been maybe in the past or will be in the future. Who knows? Maybe we'll see this stock route becoming just increasingly difficult yet, and we'll still see lower share prices. But as I mentioned before, in my point of view, NIO is currently priced on a very, very conservative or even pessimistic scenario. So yeah, some comments here around NIO Huawei and the 5 nanometer technology. So I may have missed it on the channel, so please add it in the comment section regarding if they have announced any more details on who's going to produce it, how it's going to be done, and so on. But I mean, they're going out there and they're saying they have this 5 nanometer technology. They say they have this self-developed chip, and so NIO has caught up to their announcements just lately with the 150 kilowatt hour battery. I think that was a great confirmation of confidence again, that NIO is not only talking about this stuff, but they're delivering on it. Maybe sometimes a little bit with a delay, but bringing out a hybrid solid state battery is a major achievement in my point of view. And it's not easy. It's not unnormal that we see delays with technology like that. And so I'm fully expecting that we'll also see this chip that NIO has announced today, that I think, in my point of view, is a major announcement, a major breakthrough. It's very bullish for the company. It's making them independent from some of those geopolitical issues here. We'll possibly see that they will get rid of NIO of NVIDIA at some point in time. By the way, I'm also thinking that we're now talking about a chip here which is inside of the car, right? That's the kind of the FSD, the self-driving chip, which is currently handled by those NVIDIA Orin chips, and now will become this more efficient, more powerful chip that is possibly more tuned towards their own algorithms, and therefore just a better chip on the end, where they don't have to pay a US company for their margins on top of that. And that's just in the car. But I think what we'll also see in the future is that NIO will also bring out, maybe in partnership, their own AI chip. And what I'm talking about here is a chip that's not inside the car, but is some of these GPUs that we see in the data centers that are being used to train large data sets. For example, we have this rumor about what I think is still coming, a NOMI GPT, so a large language model that will be similar to what we see with ChatGPT, a kind of a chatbot, and that obviously being integrated with NOMI, the digital assistant. So that's one part of NIO's AI initiatives, but I think we'll also see it for replacing the current US chips in data centers for training the data which they're gathering for autonomous driving. We see that the whole narrative is currently collapsing, that Chinese companies are not able to pull off some sort of technological advancements like self-driving, simply because of the fact that the US is limiting them what kind of chips they can import. No, in effect, as I just pointed out before, NIO at this point in time has a more advanced self-driving technology on the roads currently with the NOP Plus beta compared to what Tesla, for example, can do, an American company can do in China. And that, by the way, is not related to geofencing or high HD mapping, right? High definition maps. No, it's actually also operating without these sort of anchor points, if you will. It's getting closer and closer to the FSD kind of approach that as Tesla is taking with vision only. I think NIO will always put on safety a little bit higher there. So as we've seen today with the announcement of the ET9, they're also adding even additional LiDAR, which, by the way, I think they're doing because they're now also developing their own LiDAR sensors and tech with the chip that I've announced on the NIO Innovation Day. And so this whole adding a new sensor isn't becoming a cost issue for them anymore, because it's all being produced in-house and R&D in-house. And so they have no issues of putting on this additional sensor capabilities, which, like it or not, but NIO has these capabilities and is using them. So on NIO Innovation Day, they have introduced how they are going about combining the compute power in the car and then the idle compute power as sort of a fleet shadowing mode of validating routes in the cities. That's what they're currently doing, in addition to training the data which they're having in their data centers, and with that, training the neural networks and the algorithms, and now we'll possibly refine that even more with this new chip and hardware architecture self-developed by NIO on top of that. And here also making use of those advancements like LiDAR, which supposedly has better capabilities, for example, in bad weather, in detecting non-moving objects, like, let's say, if there's an object that is on the Autobahn, on a highway, and is posing a risk to a self-driving car. We've seen in the past, even, for example, some Chinese competitors having issues with the AEB, so that the braking mechanisms that they are not working as well as, for example, the NIO cars doing that. And parts of that is because of the sensors and the capabilities here introduced with LiDAR. Parts of it is that NIO is generally aiming for better safety and higher quality there, and partly because also simply the algorithms might be better with a team around Ren Xiaoqing, which has been a major key person in introducing ResNets, introducing image labeling, introducing self-driving algorithms. So, it's now surfacing step by step what NIO is doing. As I mentioned in the past, I've been quite quiet about it, and now I'm seeing just very recently that they are being more outspoken about that on Weibo. The NIO Day they've always been doing, they have improved on NIO Day, in my point of view, the way they're conducting these NIO Days. And as I mentioned again, as a little bit of an outlook, I'm expecting more and more frequent conferences about such topics, more nerdy conferences, more tech-relevant conferences, and hopefully maybe even some more investor-related conferences in 2024 going forward. So, yeah, let's see if we get some details also on this 5nm technology. Who's doing that for them? What kind of wafers they're doing? Who's doing that? I think the last bottleneck here might be the lithography machines. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that one correctly in English. Please excuse my foreign language skills here. But anyways, that's kind of the latest bottleneck that I'm seeing. Actually, it seems like on a chip design level, China already by today has largely caught up with what the West is doing. And now the problem is, like, how can they replace the Taiwanese manufacturers, the Samsungs and so on of this world, and those, what's it called, ASML, or I may have a wrong name here for those Dutch or lithography machines from the Netherlands. Anyways, that are necessary in order to build those wafers. But anyways, pretty exciting technology demonstrated today. ASML, here we got it. Thanks, Peter. Lithography, yeah. I don't even know what's it in Chinese. All right, any more questions or topics that I should cover here? I hope you find this live stream exciting and insightful. Again, I appreciate your support. I actually want to put a shout out here to my patrons. You guys keep us going, and you guys keep us independent. I'm trying my best to kind of deliver on also giving you better insights on the patron community. So if you're a 10 USD member, then you can join this community. It's a separate website where you'll get access to a group member chat, daily activity, and so on, and exclusive content. Lately, unfortunately, like on the channel, I'm not doing as much content as I should. Please excuse that. That's during the times where I'm just, saying hello to my newborn, and at the top, and aside of that, quite have to finalize a couple of projects on with our company. So, but again, I'm doing this channel out of my own interest in terms of I'm covering the topics that I find personally exciting. I'm doing this from an investor perspective. I put my money where my mouth is, in a sense that I'm investing in most of the companies that I'm covering in the channel. And so I'm not only doing this for the clicks, actually exactly not doing it for the clicks. That's also why I'm sometimes not doing videos or not hyping every video or jumping on a bandwagon with everything out there. I'm trying to get you some quality information as good as I can. And I'm also not here to talk down those stocks or companies that I'm covering, which in a sense also you should be aware that I'm biased in a sense that I'm certainly not going to amplify any short selling narratives out there, which I think are plenty. Lots of fake news out there recently, lots of wrong narratives out there, I think. Partly this whole fear around NIO's cash balance, how much money they're burning and so on, has been really also turned into a discussion that has been largely been disconnected to the fundamentals. But of course, when the share price is going down, people start to worry. And then also, of course, it's also a reality which we shouldn't ignore, that NIO is just a startup company, and the competition is fierce, and there's nowhere a certainty or guarantee that NIO, despite all of these great products that we're seeing here, will make it through, right? Because currently it's a tough market, and the best product is not necessarily turning into sales. In fact, NIO had some issue with marketing and sales. I have personal experience around that, with first getting the Neo ET7, then the ET5 in Germany. I have the experience of Neo China and Neo Germany. I can say these are totally different companies in my personal perspective. So Neo China is a whole different service level. I've unfortunately had also some bad experiences with Neo in Germany as a Neo user. To be frank, I'm always trying to benchmark it against competitors. For example, I'm subscribing to a Tesla Model 3 Highland test drive as well. I'm benchmarking all of the Chinese competitors whenever I'm in China. So I know these models from firsthand, and that's why I can say that, NIO still has this outstanding USP and qualities, but certainly not getting all of the traction that they should on the streets. And partly of that is an in-house problem, an operational problem, which sometimes is part due to reason of where they are as a company in a certain stage of the startup phase. But we see also that, and we should also value that, like companies like Li Auto, just being smarter. Of course, they have the easier product to sell with a range extended vehicle, which, by the way, it's not a fully battery electric vehicle, and thereby, it's alleviating some of the fear around fully battery electric vehicles. Therefore, it's easier to sell. They're better at selling it as well, and so it's kind of showing where NIO is a little bit failing in some aspects, and especially, my personal experiences with being in this customer journey. Several times trying to get a NIO car in Germany has been quite difficult at some points. But I also want to point out that on other parts, they've done a great job. So, for example, I remember when I've been to the NIO EC Hub in Munich, picking up the ET5 finally. It was a great NIO follow introducing us to the car. There was Christian Wiegand, I think that's his name. Maybe he's watching. Shout out. He's, I think, taken on a higher and higher managerial role at NIO. He's a great guy. He immediately made it possible for us to drive the NIO ET5 Touring, which was a new product experience. Some of the latest technological advancements of NIO on the software side as well as on the hardware side, giving us a kind of a sneak peek. And that was really kind of the relationship that I think NIO should be building. And on top of that, I had the experience in the NIO EP Club when a couple of NIO members, which, by the way, you see it here in the background, the EP9 car, this supercar, it's kind of your entry ticket into this EP club. So if you have bought one of these cars or have referred, let's say, I think more than $500,000 in sales, you become part of this club. And a couple of these club members have visited Germany, and I was luckily invited by NIO as a NIO advisory board member and could experience this type of a club And that was one of the other highlights, which got me extremely confident again about what NIO is building there with the ecosystem, with the user centricity and so on. Also on the Germany side, on the European side, there have been some great highlights, despite the fact that most people are viewing negatively currently that they haven't pulled off the sales that mostly, and frankly, I myself also expected. But I think, it just takes some time to develop the brand. And I've also talked in my Patreon community with some background information, which I think are currently also holding back NIO. There are some reasons that are maybe not in the hands of NIO why currently the Chinese EVs are struggling to overall make their entry into Europe. So it's not a NIO only issue. Also, the XPeng cars or BYD cars sold are not possibly in the volumes that most people have anticipated. And that's also funnily why I can only laugh about these comments by the EU Commission and Ursula von der Leyen, which wants to put higher entry barriers into the European market for Chinese EVs. And it's really not like those headlines currently where we can say that those cheap EVs from China are actually flooding the market. That's not the case, in my point of view. And it's also a wrong description of what NIO is going to be. Many people are expecting NIO cars to be those cheap cars. I'm totally against that perspective. I think NIO cars deliver a great value, both on the quality build as well as on the user experience. And I think they should charge a premium. I don't think they should be low on the pricing. And that's also why I'm happy to see that NIO has not engaged in this price war in a way that others have. I think NIO, if they can survive this price war, will come out as one of the winners, kind of establishing their premium to luxury positioning, not having to resort to price cuts in order to drive up the volumes. Maybe also one of the reasons why they're opting instead to have a little less volume, but instead raising cash currently and just secure the company's existence going forward. And then once some of these competitors are having no future going forward, NIO will still be there and taking over some of these segments in the sub-brand category, but also some more of the premium market, which is a slower growing market. And so I think NIO is doing this long-term bet here. It's not becoming in a rush or panicky about this whole situation. While I would say they become panicky about tapping into the markets and raising funds in a not ideal way, but they're not becoming panicky about just introducing scaled down models. For example, some say, oh, NIO should introduce the ET5 with just a single motor or no LiDAR and so on. And I said countless times, I think that's not going to happen. And indeed, we haven't seen that happening yet. I think that's what's coming with the Alps brand, the sub-brand, which might be a lower spec version. That makes sense. But it wouldn't be a good sign if they certainly sell cheaper NIO-branded cars with less tech capabilities, in my point of view. So it's a long-term race here. And I know investors are largely impatient currently in this market. So that's maybe referring to this one question here. Anything relevant that could help the stock price? I think and please go back and rewatch it if you joined this live stream a little bit later. I think on several times during the streams, I've commented on this overall market situation, the NIO stock price, performance, factors for it, different scenarios of how I think it could be valued and so on, and how to think about this as an investor. So generally, I always say time in the markets beats timing the markets, meaning if you have found an opportunity where you think this could be a multi-bagger or compounder over time, and I'm here saying 5 to 10 years minimum, rather in decades, then as an investor, but as a real investor, as a long-term investor, not one of those traders, your task would be to accumulate as much stock as you want to kind of how much of your portfolio you want to allocate to it. So some say I want to own 50% of my portfolio in NIO. I'm definitely on a double-digit percentage of my stock portfolio in NIO, but that's maybe too much for lots of people. So usually you would say, between 1 and 5% as a risky company like NIO, and then you're done buying. But then, do dollar cost averaging, do it over time, and then not only buy it just in one chunk, buy it in steps, and sometimes even automate it, because otherwise you become emotional about it. I mean, I don't know your personal financial situations and portfolio, so I can't give you any financial advice. I can just speak about my personal experience. So I was lucky to have a couple of multi-baggers. Like, I invested in Bitcoin early, in Tesla early, in Tencent early. All of these companies became a 10x in investment, but all of these investments have been going through very, very difficult periods of time. Drawdowns 50% to 80%. Most of these stocks and investments have faced lots of fear, uncertainty, and doubt. So it's difficult to hold through these periods, and most investors, frankly, won't do it. And to be honest, also most of these investments will never make it as well, right? So you cannot rely only on one simple company to make it. The way how venture capital works usually is you have 10 investments, and out of those 10 investments, 9 go bankrupt, and just one makes it as a multi-bagger and pays for the rest of your failures. So, that's kind of the risk management part, which many people don't get. But again, you need to understand a certain company, get familiar with it, know where it's going, and that's helping you through difficult periods right now to hold on to it and to acquire more of it as much as you might be able to stomach, that you still can sleep at night, and that you possibly at some point in time, hopefully have a life-changing outcome, in a sense that, once it's becoming a multi-bagger, it's hopefully changing your financial situation in a better way, in a meaningful way. And that's where I think passive investment is not doing that great. If you're younger, then you can have a little bit more risk exposure. Of course, the easy thing is to just get an ETF, MSCI World or an S&P 500. Most investors never beat the S&P 500 on a performance basis. Just have some money in there and compound over time. That's an easy way over time, in 50 years, to build a certain capital stock. But if you're young, you can also take a couple of risky investments and bets. And that's why I'm passionate personally about some even risky investments, emerging market investments, China tech investments, Bitcoin, startups, those type of things, which I think can really provide outsized returns over time. And I'm hoping that NIO will be one of them. And so, to come back to your question here, what could help the stock price? I think over time, this will either NIO will make it, and that will work out itself, because NIO will then have also the financial metrics that will help Wall Street to appreciate this company, and we will get into another bull market at some point in time again. So also the macro environment stars will align again, and that's what will help the stock price ultimately. I don't know whether or not that can be in the short term. I don't know if that can be 2024, which might be a difficult year again, with lots of geopolitics issues and stuff like that. But I'm pretty confident that in 5 to 10 years, it will look largely different, because I think it's an unsustainable path that we're on currently, that investors only pay a premium valuation to US stocks. That's a flight to safety. I think largely the US stocks ecosystem environment, in comparison to the rest of the world, and I'm not talking only about China, compared to the rest of the world, I'm talking about compared to Germany, compared to Europe, compared to emerging markets, it's overvalued. And as an investor, you want exposure that is a little bit more balanced. At some point in time, the there is more risk than return in US stocks. And that's when, this whole thing will rewind and go into another direction. That's when you will see money flow to, for example, emerging markets. And if you don't have an exposure to that, then also as an asset and portfolio manager, you can quickly lose your job and look stupid for not having exposure to emerging markets and China. Currently, we're not in that time, I know, but in the future, I believe we will be again, because currently, frankly, we're in a very extreme environment, given to how fast the Fed has hiked rates, how steep this has been, how much it has impacted the broader investment space. And we now have seen a little bit of a Fed pivot, and we don't know when exactly we'll see a reversal, for example, for emerging markets. But I do believe we have to at least reverse to the mean. And if we are going back to this average, then I think that will also naturally bring back traction into the China space, and that will certainly help the stock price. That's my point of view. It's not investment advice, it's not future telling, but that's how I personally see it on market. Okay. And so, here on good comment. RISC-V is also a very interesting technology for chips. So basically competing with the ARM chip platform, if you will, which is RISC-V is, I think it's possibly differently pronounced, but it's basically open source, and China has been betting largely on that. There has been also some rumors that the US also trying to restrict China with what they can do in this space, but I think that will be difficult again. I think this whole chip sanction has been counterproductive for the West. I think it would have been much more smarter for the West to make China dependent on Western technology. And now with the fact that are trying to cut them off, we'll see more and more companies like NIO today announcing their own, self-developed technology. China will have breakthroughs, and they will become largely independent from Western technology. They will export it, if not to the West, they will export it to the BRICS countries, to the global South, to anybody else in Southeast Asia, and so on. And that will lead to a minor decrease in relevance of Western companies like NVIDIA, in my point of view. Not investment advice. I'm not invested in NVIDIA either. I wouldn't short the company, whatever, but it's just how I see this evolving over time. I think it was a very short-sighted matter here, and I don't think that's going to be ending well for our Western perspective. And I'm not saying this as a whatever some people call me, a China shill, or a fan of China or whatever. No, I'm neutral on that. I'm just saying how I think it is, and I think we could be much smarter in the West and have a much higher benefit from the developments in China on a technological space sphere. Like the market in China is huge. I think Chinese technology development, we could learn a lot about it and introduce it also in, let's say, in Europe, for example. Western brands can learn a lot about it. And I think, if you make use of cheap Chinese technology, in cheap, I mean, not that it's minor quality, but it's just simply produced on a larger scale and therefore at better cost. This will benefit European consumer as well, right? I think it's super stupid to announce more difficult trading barriers into, let's say, bringing Chinese EV into Europe. European consumer will largely benefit if we could buy better technology at more affordable prices, and possibly US consumers will never get those benefits of this huge innovations that we are seeing on the Chinese EV space, right? I don't know, like somebody else needs to do it. Maybe Tesla can do it, but possibly the US consumer will be exposed just to a couple more older technologies in the future, whereas China will be driving in the future. And I'm hoping that
we in Europe get some part of that future and have a stake in that future. So that's how I'm seeing this whole collaborative movement between Europe and China. And I think we've seen some strong statements even by some of the automotive OEMs. So you may have seen my video when I attended what was it? Was it IAA, I think, in Munich? So this huge automotive conference where also Bin was attending, right? And we also had like major German OEM CEOs like Kalenius from Mercedes-Benz going onto the stage and saying, look, we as a German brand, we were able to import our cars and selling them for a long, long time in China. It's becoming one of our most profitable and biggest markets. And we should keep open markets and we should allow the Chinese to do the same in Europe. So this is a CEO of a brand that is facing Chinese competition, saying that openly. And that's, I think, telling a lot. And it's frankly also reflecting my views. So some of the German business leaders have a much more pragmatic view on that, I think, because they understand the space better. It's not always like that the Chinese will go and wipe out all of those European brands. In fact, I'm a proponent of saying that I think it's a huge opportunity, a window of opportunity right now for the German OEM to make those partnerships that we see now between Volkswagen and XPeng, for example, hopefully NIO and Mercedes at some point in time, and take in some of the market share that other players are actually leaving there. Like we see US companies, due to the geopolitics, or also due to the fact that they think they are not able to compete, putting out of the Chinese market, for example, Ford. These are all sales that will go to either the Chinese brand or I'm thinking also to the German brands, because like it or not, yes, the German cars are maybe currently not as advanced, but they still carry a lot of tradition and brand recognition, and that will still be important. And that's something which is even for NIO challenging to achieve, in my point of view. So I think that's something the German brands can leverage, and that's something the CEOs, like the Mercedes CEOs and so on, the Volkswagen CEOs, they know, and that's why they double down on China. And now if we have the US companies, the Japanese companies, the Korean companies, leaving all that space in the Chinese market, I think ultimately it will be the Chinese brands and most likely also the German brands, which will be the winners out of this. And maybe a win for the German brands is only that they are able to hold their market share. It doesn't necessarily mean that they need more market share, but that's also why I think currently the Chinese, the German boards are quite smart. The German CEOs are quite smart about how they go here into partnerships. The Volkswagen Xiaopeng deal could, for Volkswagen, maybe not so much for Xiaopeng, but for Volkswagen, turn out to be a huge win, in my point of view. They also have an announcement with SAIC, or one of the SAIC brands, IM Motors, which Audi is partnering with for getting the EV platform. And let's say if Mercedes is pragmatic about it, they will not hesitate to work with somebody like NIO in order to bring out a car that is possibly based on this platform that we've seen announced today, simply because it will mean that they can stay in the game. So it's not about arrogance and say we have better cars in Germany anymore. Instead, it's coping with the new realities, and I think NIO Day today demonstrated really exactly what are the new realities. It's the Chinese brands now setting the standards even in this premium to luxury segment. I think we've seen lots of superlatives today with this ET9 car being introduced. It's a bottom-up innovation approach in which they are even bringing out core capabilities on the hardware, on the software side with their own silicon and chips. And this is very powerful. And I think the competitors will have watched this today, and they will really appreciate what NIO has done there. And maybe Wall Street doesn't appreciate it yet. again, maybe we see a sell-off that could be, part of sentiment-driven or whatever. But this company is real. It's really doing lots of stuff the right way, in a fundamental way, in a quality way that I personally appreciate, but I also recognize that they're still challenged and troubled with lots of operational stuff, not always doing the right things. And frankly, that stuff happens. It's oftentimes chaotic. Also, with the cost cuts announced, right, with the changes that they're doing, I'm personally not entirely happy, for example, about the Abu Dhabi fund and there's lots of dilution. I'm not super happy that they're taking all of their manufacturing in-house and becoming more and more like Tesla, because I always thought it's also setting them distinct and apart from Tesla, that they are kind of, focusing on their key R&D and design abilities and leaving the manufacturing part to somebody else. But I also appreciate that sometimes maybe it's necessary to think things different, and now it's also about how to survive in this fierce competition and how to staying alive as a company. And now it's only possible if you achieve high margins and if you have a fundamental cash position and so on. And that's why management is acting the way they're doing, and sometimes have also to do such unpopular decisions, which especially in the short term are really hurting a lot. So I think in my books, this has been quite a success today. I think there are some missing parts still, which I think they're still coming. I guess I've talked about them today, and I expect them to be announced in coming days and weeks. It seems like NIO is on an announcement and deal-making spree right now, which is good to see. I have the feeling there's some sort of a traction, and there's a little bit of, in German we would say, Aufbruchstimmung. It's like a new spirit coming back. And we see that possibly some of the worst has been behind us. But of course, now the next big goal will be to launch the sub-brands. I'm not excited about the sub-brands until we see a couple of specs. I said before, it's never been the reason why I invested in this company, but I do see possibly why now it's the right thing to do. So I'll take it as one of those many optionalities in your stock. The cool thing about NIO is that they have so many things going on and so many revenue streams and opportunities which they're tapping in. And I think NIO Day today really didn't even touch on many of them. It was quite dense in terms of what they've shown, in my point of view. And so, I'll wrap it up here. I think that's been a very, very good NIO Day, with some parts maybe been a little bit underwhelming, a little bit known, other parts really exciting, really forward-looking, and many, many things not yet announced, and a couple of shots still to being fired, latest in 2024, but maybe, as we know, China's speed, maybe even in the next couple of weeks. So, again, thank you guys all for joining, for your questions, for your participation. Again, please smash a like, subscribe to the channel so you can put questions in the chat here, and you can consider to become a patron. Once you are a $10 tier member, you will get an invite link in your inbox that will take you to another site, the Patreon network, where we have an all members chat with around 300 investors which are taking this topic seriously, where we discuss daily, even whenever I cannot put out many videos, because I have to say, for me, it's sometimes easier to chat in the network, or I'm doing lots of stuff on Twitter, of course. It's much faster and easier content for me to do. However, of course, I will always be back to YouTube and maybe do daily videos again when I find the time. Not this year, but the next year is already around the corner. And so until then, shout out to everybody supporting this channel and showing your appreciation. Thank you. And then let's hope we can end this year on a high note. despite the short sellers, the bears, and so on, having a big win in the last couple of months and years. Yeah, they had the fun, but we'll be back, I hope. Thanks for watching, and see you on my next videos.